I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening. Thank you for coming. We have a brief report, given that I know we have a pretty packed agenda. As the board knows, just wanted to reiterate that the governor presented her budget last week. If adopted, the proposal is going to have a significant impact on us. This is the email that went out to the community, or a portion of it. We're looking at right now in her proposal a reduction in actual dollars of $159,000. Keeping in mind, as it says that last year we were in that hold harmless category, and that limited funding last year was a significant factor in the $1.3 million we had to cut last year. So our advocacy committee's been working hard, and we appreciate their work. Two of our board members today participated in a press conference with Assemblyman Bendette in Albany and the Republican caucus, and I'm going to be part of a press statement coming out from Senator Ashby's office. We're just emailing about that, so that'll be coming up tomorrow or Wednesday. Did want to take a brief moment just to thank our building and grounds folks. We've had some interesting weather this year, right? The snow, but also the cold. And we've had some power outages in the district, but we've done really good in staying open. I want to just kind of publicly thank Aaron Hefner and his crew for the work that they've done. It's really limited the impact on the district and our operations so far. And they do a ton of stuff that people really don't usually see, right? The generators, for example, they always have those on standby. They make sure we have them the night before. They're in the building, walking through the building, increasing their walkthroughs, especially for in an effort to prevent pipes from freezing and causing damage. So we just want to acknowledge them and the work that they have done. Going back to the financial side, we've got some good news from the comptroller's office. The fiscal stress monitoring system update came out. We get this annually. And just nice to see that from the comptroller's numbers that we are in a good spot with no stress designation. And then finally, just kind of wanted to highlight some information that Mr. Keeley sent out recently, it was last week, to our students about some of the courses that are being offered here as we continue to try to meet the needs of and create opportunities for every student every day. The courses that we are now involved with at Hudson Valley, and that number has gone up quite a bit. Heath and his team has done a really nice job of increasing those classes. We appreciate the faculty members who have taken this on. So just some positivity there and what we're able to offer our students, some good news financially. And I want to thank Aaron's folks, but don't want to lose sight, obviously, of the news about the governor's budget, which I'm sure is on everyone's mind. And with that, we'll go to our celebrations of success. So a lengthier one, it's been a little while since we've met. Wanted to thank Brian Radowitz, especially with the folks from Questar here. Brian is now been promoted, is now the Director of Communications there. And once again, we thank him for another fantastic video summarizing what's been going on. And then finally, in the superintendent's report, we wanted to talk to the board a little bit about our next capital project. So we are knee deep in our first one, or our current one, excuse me. We just had our first summer of work. We have 2 more summers of work coming. But something we've been talking a lot about in facilities and we've been talking about internally at cabinet is trying to make sure we get ourselves in an ongoing cycle. The next project really needs to get going sooner rather than later. And the needs for that one are going to be very similar to this one in terms of basic maintenance type stuff. So with that, I'm going to see if Tony would like to explain this to us a little more eloquently than I would. So Tony, thank you for joining us today. We'll go over the mic to you.
Thank you, Dr. Franchini. I wanted to take a moment to talk about capital planning. So one of the most important things a school district can undertake is making sure that its facilities, its infrastructure are all well maintained and they are kept up to code and they are adequate to meet the needs of both program and the health and safety of the occupants. Obviously, we are in the process of building a $28.5 million capital improvement project, which focuses primarily on health and safety. But we need to start planning the next referendum because, as Dr. Franchini pointed out, one of the major issues is that our facilities continue to deteriorate. There's always something that needs to be replaced because it's getting to the end of its serviceable life. And that includes roofs and windows and doors and heating and ventilation and air conditioning systems and power systems, as well as interior finishes, paint, floor tile, ceiling tile, light fixtures. All of those things over time wear out simply from regular use, even though they're very, very well maintained. And again, I'll give compliments to the Buildings and Grounds Group, Aaron Hafner, Bill Sanzone, and the entire team for what they do and how they accomplish the maintenance of our facilities. Nonetheless, our facilities do deteriorate. So with that in mind, it's a good opportunity to think about how long it takes to put a capital plan together. It doesn't happen overnight. The first thing that has to happen is we have to address the evaluation of our existing facility conditions. And in fact, we're completing, and the board has previously authorized our architects, Mosaic Architects, to do a review of all of our facilities and create a 5-year capital plan, which looks at our current building conditions as they look today and will look over the next 5 years. That process is being wrapped up. But we know from our day-to-day experiences at the properties that we have some systems that are in desperate need of restoration, rehabilitation, or reconstruction. And those include things like site work and additional roof work, windows, doors, etc., which are primary elements to keep the buildings safe and secure, as well as watertight and weathertight. With that in mind, the planning process typically takes a year to get the collection of all the information necessary to do the evaluation, put cost estimates to those items, and look at the remaining life cycle in any of those building systems. That process is wrapping up and should be completed in the next month or two. Contemporaneously with that, we'll be looking at what's the financial condition of the district with regard to borrowing, what the current debt is on capital improvements that have been authorized previously and are currently underway, and when existing debt will roll off, in other words, be retired. And as you may recall from prior conversations, the state education department is a substantial funding source from the majority of the improvements that happen at this school district and every school district in New York State. In fact, we receive about 77% or so of every dollar that's spent on qualified and approved improvements are covered by the state of New York through the state education department in building aid. The balance is done through what's called local share. So we're undertaking an evaluation with Carrie and our financial advisor, which is called fiscal advisors, to do an evaluation of our existing conditions on debt, when debt will be retired, and what potential borrowing might look like for a new referendum. We think it's prudent, and we've advised the district, and the district has previously undertaken a concept of doing a cyclical update of facilities so that we're regularly maintaining our projects and our properties. We're making sure that the facilities stay up to date and current, and that we don't get into what many districts find themselves trapped in, which is these large projects that are huge capital investments that have massive impact on the local taxpayer because too many improvements were pushed too far off and they become catastrophic in the impact on the finances of the district. A regular, smooth level of investment that looks at about every 3 to 5 years, every 5 to 7 years, depending on the systems, and a regular replacement of things that wear out over time. So we're undertaking that process now, and that will happen between now and April. Our intent is to come back to the board sometime towards the end of April with an evaluation and a plan about how to approach with options so that we can look at what are the highest priority issues, what are the most urgent exposures, and what are the most forward-thinking things that we can look at the district from a capital standpoint over the next 5 to 10 years. If the board approved the concept of moving forward with a capital referendum, say it was presented this fall, it would still take 3 to 4 years to complete those improvements. And I want to explain for a second the process. Once the board presents to the voters a proposition of whatever size to cover whatever scope of work, typically takes 3 or 4 months to prepare and present that. Once that is approved and presented to the voters, and it's assuming it's approved, it takes typically 9 to 12 months for the architects to actually design the documents, put together a package, and submit that to the state education department for its review and approval to issue a construction permit. That's followed by 3 to 4 months of bidding to competitively collect contractor bids and then award to the lowest qualified bidder, and then move forward with the start of construction. Assuming a 2-summer construction cycle, and then several, say 3 to 5 months to close out once construction is completed, it brings us into the earliest of completion of a project authorized in this fall would be 2027 and maybe 2028. So it gives you a sense, sitting here today in January of 2024, the beginning of the new year, how long it takes to put together a referendum and complete capital improvements. And that's the forward look that we need to be doing as a Board of Education and a district's leadership to make sure that we're prudently maintaining our facilities. Any questions? Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, it came up today. One of the other districts affected by the budget situation referenced that they may have to scrap their entire capital project plan that they've been working on for years because of the current budget situation. What does the landscape look like? We start this process now, worst case scenario, do we find ourselves in that same spot? And then, what avenues do we have? We continually find ourselves backed into a corner when it comes to the state and our budget. So I guess I just kind of want to know, how bad does it get from here?
I don't see it as a good or bad situation. Planning is required no matter what the financial environment is related to aid. You have to make prudent and informed decisions about what you're going to present to the voters for their authorization and approval. You're not going to spend any dollars that the voters don't approve in a capital project. Every capital project requires a public referendum, and it's a consideration process of what are the exposures, what are the issues, and how long can you maintain existing conditions before you're forced into making a change. And I think the most important part about Averill Park as a community is that they're fiscally responsible, and it's a community that looks closely at investment and making sure that the properties and the programs are maintained and well invested in. So it's a consideration process. I think if there are tighter conditions under budget constraints from the state, Our building aid may or may not change. It can change annually. It's been relatively stable in the high 70s since we've gone off the merger aid, which was for 20 years a benefit to the district. So all those things need to be taken into consideration as the board considers how to evaluate and propose a potential improvement plan.
So you're starting a process now, and if all goes well, we'll put it in front of the voters for the budget vote, not for this May, but the following May, yeah?
What we're considering is not for this May. We would like to get in front of the board sometime around the budget vote, April to May, to present what the evaluation looks like for the board to consider, and should it consider something and say it wants to bring something to voters. We'd say the earliest would likely be the fall, October or November, to present something to the voters. And then that's something that the board would have to consider and choose if that's the right time or sometime in the future, but not any sooner than that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have one quick question. I just like to listen. You just mentioned, and just this is just to make sure that it sort of gets out there. There's sort of the stay on top of it, bite-sized chunks. Which even the number for bite-sized chunks is a lot for a regular household, right? In the tens of 20s of millions of dollars. But you said something about large numbers. And so, like, when you put, again, we all know this in our own households, of like, if we put something off with our car, with our, can you give us a sense of, like, what kind of numbers that would be if we did, just so that we were informed of, like, we want to put this off, what is a large number?
That's a really good question. We're at the very beginning of the evaluation of what it could be, and I wouldn't want to speculate on a number today, but I've worked with districts who postponed improvements for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And as opposed to it being in the millions or low tens of millions, it was $50 or $80 million. I don't believe we're going to be anywhere near those kinds of numbers, but the issue is regular and methodical repair, upgrade, and maintenance of facilities so that you don't get into these catastrophic wholesale replacements. That's the concept.
Yeah, if you're, anything that's 2 plus 3 plus times is not favorable for me. Thank you, Tony.
Sure.
Everybody good?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Thank you, Tony. That concludes the superintendent's report.
Thanks, Jim. Here is our first public comment opportunity. I do not have any issues right now. Normally this would be topics on the agenda. We can skip over it to item 5. Our Questar folks are here and going to give us a presentation. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to join you tonight. I have with us a team from Questar 3. Most important, we have some students from your districts that are in some of our programs that will talk briefly to you about what they have learned and what they are really engaged in the program. We also have with us one of our board members, Mr. Frank Slack from Berlin. He is also the president and has been on his Board of Education for many years. So thank you for being with us, Frank. All right, so I wanted to start a little bit talking about what we have seen in the region, which is a decrease in enrollment, resident weighted average daily attendance from 2014, when we had 34,547 students in the region, we are down to 29,743 and at the end of 22-23, and it continues to go down. Now, this is a phenomenon that's not only in our region, it's also in our state, it's also in our nation. And then we're seeing other things coming at the same time. We're seeing an increase in homeschool students. And we're seeing some other phenomena as well. The CTE program in numbers in our BOCES remain very healthy. We have over 800 students in our programs now. It has been increasing since 2013, 14, 7. Our special education enrollment has also been increasing. We saw a dip in 2021, 22, and the numbers are up to over 300 students again in our specialized programs for students with exceptionalities. I'm going to turn it over to one of our team members, Dr. James Niedermeyer, who will talk to you about the career and technical education.
I'm going to bring up one of your students, Molly Molitor, who's going to talk about her program in criminal justice. But as she gets up here, I'll just give a brief overview about CTE. So you know that we have lots of CTE programs, and your students attend our CTE programs at the Robert Gibson Technical School. So we have traditional programs that you might expect, like construction technologies and cosmetology and culinary arts. But we also have a newer gaming and multimedia program there. At some of our other programs, we have other kind of exciting programs like aviation. We also have at our technical centers career studies programs. And so these are more introductory level CTE programs that give students a little bit more individualized attention, and the class sizes tend to be much smaller. So you have 53 career and tech education students. Molly is one of them, and so now I'm going to turn it over to her so she can talk a little bit about her experiences.
Hi, my name is Molly, and I'm a senior here at Averill Park, and I also attend Questar's Criminal Justice Program. When I heard that the syllabus included law enforcement, forensics, law and courts, corrections, and private security, I was immediately intrigued, as I knew I wanted to be in the criminal justice field. This class helps me learn through its academic requirements, such as projects, vocabulary memorization, slideshow presentations, Google Forms, and textbooks with tests for each chapter. In this class, I not only do book work, but I do lots of hands-on work. This class teaches kids how to write uniform traffic tickets. They learn how to use a radio properly, as well as completing compliant search and arrests. I've learned how to use an appropriate officer stance and do felony takedowns, and even traffic stops. Kids get taught how to dust, lift, and roll fingerprints, and how to sketch and measure a crime scene. We've also learned how to use forensic lighting, and in junior year, our class participated in a mock trial. This is where the seniors acted as a jury, who then decided the verdict. We had to write our own testimonies and present our own evidence. In this class, students get FEMA certifications, New York State 8-hour security guard training, as well as completing a NOCTI exam. We get bloodborne pathogen certification and also an APCO public safety telecommunicator certification. This class is designed for students to easily enter the workplace. We get taught critical professionalism and do things like civil service exams and write resumes. This class also gives us an opportunity to go on a 2-week internship and experience the work of mostly any job in this field. The advantages that I get from this class include connections from all different people in the workforce. We get visitors like bomb squad, K9 dogs, 911 dispatchers, SWAT team members, and park rangers that all come to our class and help us learn from a real perspective and leave us their business cards. Questar also includes a club called Skills USA. This is where kids from each BOE school has the advantage to compete in their own skill. My partner and I got promoted to states in Syracuse and placed 2nd out of 50 in job skill demonstration. Not only has this school taught me so much, but has also guided and prepared me for my future in criminal law.
Molly, just a couple of questions.
Yes.
So you told me what your favorite thing that you've done so far in your program has been. What is it?
It's felony takedowns. We work with Troy police, and they come and they teach us how to stand correctly and what to do in real life situations.
And you've done some 911 dispatch training as well?
Yes, we have a simulator in our class, and It's all on the computer, and we have 2 different rooms. One is the caller and one is the telecommunicator.
Well, thank you and congratulations for placing second.
Thanks.
So in addition to CTE, we have a couple of innovative high schools. One of the high schools you don't send students to, but you do send wine and skill students. So some wine and skill students actually enroll in Averill Park for the purpose of record keeping so that they can, and then they attend STEM high school. So I'm gonna invite a couple of STEM high school students up, Max Remington and Haley Wagner from Wine and Skill. So STEM high school is in its 3rd year. Next year, it'll be a complete high school and have freshmen through seniors. It's located on the Hudson Valley campus. It's available to students from all districts. Students essentially major in a STEM-related field, and then they take college classes while on campus at no cost to families at all, and actually earn associate's degrees during the process of completing their Regents diploma. So there's lots of workplace visits and a very kind of permeable relationship with Hudson Valley, where students are taking some classes in their building and some classes on campus. So I'm going to turn it over to these students to talk a little bit about their experiences at STEM high school.
Hello, my name is Haley Wagner, and I am a junior at STEM High School. And
hello, everybody. My name is Maximus Remington, and I am a junior at STEM High School.
one of the many cool things that we have at STEM High School is that we're not just a high school class. We also take college classes. We have the same liabilities as a college student as well as a high school student. We take all our high school classes there on Hudson Valley's campus. And we start taking college classes our 2nd semester freshman year.
Can I ask you a question, Haley?
Yeah.
How many college credits have you earned so far?
As of this semester, I have 37 credits.
And do you think that you'll be able to earn the whole associates in 4 years, or is it going to take you a little longer for that?
I am part of the PTech program,
Mhm.
so I do have until my 6 years are up.
And what program are you enrolled in?
I'm in the computer and information sciences, and I'm a part of the PTech program part, so it means I have 6 years to complete my associate's degree,
What class has been your favorite so far?
college or high school.
Let's do college.
So I really haven't gotten far in the SIS 100 field yet, but so far my favorite class has been SIS 100, which is just introduction to coding and everything in that.
And so, Max, I know that you didn't remember quite how many credits you had, but you wanted to be clear that you probably had more than Haley, right?
Well, I wouldn't want to be clear. I probably did.
So talk a little bit about what your favorite classes have been.
So my favorite classes have been English Comp 1 and Programming and Logic. Those are 2 separate classes. English Comp 1 has really helped my understanding of the English language, while Programming and Logic 1 has really helped me understand the Java programming language, which is going to help me later on in my career. Hopefully when I get a job in a STEM or computer-related field.
And what are some of the things that you get to do while you're on campus? Are there other things that you get to access in addition to just taking classes there?
We get access to the library and the tutors and the writing center and the entirety of the campus. The cool thing about the library is not only can we take out books at the library, but we can also get writing help in the basement. And the writing help doesn't have to be for a college class. Like if we were working on a high school essay, we could go to the writing center and get support on it with people who are very knowledgeable in the English language.
Very good. Is there anything else that you wanted to share?
Blanking.
You're good?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We do have another innovative high school as well, Tech Valley High School, which is the high school that I had the privilege of being the principal of for about 5 years. It's on the SUNY Polytechnic or New York Creates campus. It's been around for quite a long time. It was founded in 2007. It's still a wall-to-wall project-based learning high school that's STEM focused. It's about 150 students And it has, still a very admirable 100% graduation rate. A lot of the students at that school also earn college credits, and it has a really robust career exploration process. So I'm going to invite up a couple of your students, Sadie Weatherwax and Shannon Caldwell, to talk about their experiences at Tech Valley.
Hi, I'm Sadie Weatherwax. I'm a senior at Tech Valley.
Hi, I'm Shannon Cole. I'm also a senior at Tech Valley.
Our schools vary about project-based learning, collaboration, and we have very tight-knit relationships with our teachers.
Each year, we do a career exploration program called iTerm that progressively gets more in depth as the years go on. Freshman and sophomore year, we do more interviews and meeting with these people like one time. As juniors and seniors, we do professional learning experiences where we go into these places for a week as juniors and 2 weeks as seniors to fully explore in depth this career that we're interested in.
Coolest experience this year so far?
I would have to say we did a project with our business partners. We had to come up with an innovative solution. So we were each broken into teams of 3, and we worked with these business partners. There were either 2 or 3 of them, and we ended up doing a presentation in front of 100 people at the E-Tech building on our campus. That was one of my favorite projects.
I'm gonna have to agree with her. It's also one of my favorites. Just getting to work with the business partner that I had was really interesting. It had to do with engineering, which is what I plan to do when I graduate. So getting to have connections in the field was like really important experience for me.
And you had a really important visitor this fall at Tech Valley?
Oh, we had Kathy Hochul came by. She signed 2 bills with us. The senior class got to sit in and watch, which was really interesting to see this. A bunch of people got to be on a panel with her and talk with her. Were you on the panel? No. Neither of us were on the panel, but they had a panel, got to tour her around. It was really interesting just to have her there.
And do you guys know how many college credits that you've earned so far?
I have 15.
I have probably, I'm not entirely sure, but 15 to 20.
And do either of you know what you're going to do for iTerm this year?
I'm going to work with the Schenectady Police Department with forensic photography. So I'm getting to do a drive around with them and get to physically photograph scenes.
Oh, tell them what you did last year.
Oh, I went to the Ellis Hospital morgue last year. Oh. I got to see over 20 autopsies and participate in some of them. So, yeah.
She was really excited about that. I don't know that I would have been, but she was. And would you like to?
Yeah. This year for my 2 weeks, I'm doing one of the weeks at the aquarium up in Rotterdam, where I'm working with the vet tech there to explore how they treat the animals, things there. And then for the second week, I'm working with Miller Animal Hospital to look at a local animal hospital for domestic animals.
Thank you very much. I also wanted to bring New Visions to your attention. So you have 6 students who attend different New Visions programs. We have several New Visions programs. All of them are great. They range from a Pathways Education program, which is at UAlbany. In that program, students actually get to do student teaching at their home districts. They also earn their TA certification as in the process of that program. New Visions is a program that's just for seniors, just 1 year long, and it's generally an honors level program. There's also a visual and performing arts program, which, judging by this room, you probably have some students who might be interested in that. We also have a STEM program that's at RPI, where students actually take engineering and physics classes on RPI campus with RPI professors. We have a medical program that is at Samaritan Hospital. That's just busting at the seams. We have so many students who are interested in medical related fields. We have a scientific research and world health program. We also have a new program in business, finance, and accounting. That program is at Columbia Green Community College. And we have at that E-Tech building that was just mentioned, we have an emergency preparedness, informatics, cyber security, and homeland security program, which is a really exciting program that teaches kids about all things homeland security. So those are just a few of our really interesting and innovative programs, and we're really thankful that you send us your students and give them these opportunities to experience different kinds of careers and start college while they're in high school. So thank you so much.
If you have a question, Leslie,
Sure.
directly about what you're doing.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So for CTE, the Hudson Valley High School and College Blend and the Tech Valley Blend, what services, if any, does Questar provide to the students to help them take the next step, whether it be, college counseling? Actually, a friend of mine who went to Tech Valley is studying at Embry-Riddle in Daytona Beach and loving that. So he had a very positive experience. But, for your students who are doing college and high school courses, is there counseling for matriculation assistance if they wanted to go on for a four-year degree for CTE? If young lady is ready to join the workforce, do you pair her up with local businesses? Do you have, networking? What type of services do you provide in that realm?
Yep. So all of our programs have counselors who help students prepare for the next step. So interestingly enough, so it used to be that students would go to a CTE program or they would choose to go to college, and that's just not the case now. So we find that more than half of our CTE students actually go on to college. And so Molly is actually planning on going to college. She's talking to me about Hudson Valley you were thinking about, and she's thinking about becoming a lawyer. So it's not CTE program specific to the program that she's in, but it's kind of adjacent to that program. And so that will certainly give her some good background. And so, yeah, she does interact with businesses. They come in and talk to her class all the time, and then she has opportunities to go out and build her network. Same is true at STEM High School. Students get to go out to businesses. As part of that program, there's actually a mentorship component where seniors will have mentors in businesses that will help them start to build their networks. Same is true in iTurn, where students are actually taught the skills to go out and get their own internships. So these students probably can tell you, learning how to make cold calls, learning how to make formal requests of businesses to let them come and be interns. And so they're learning those things too.
Thank you.
Well, student apprenticeship programs.
Student apprenticeship programs as well, yeah. So in CTE, we also have a youth apprenticeship program where students can actually get paid while they're working, while they're learning their trade. We have lots of students who have actually been hired by those businesses as full-time workers after the apprenticeship program is done. So we have students right now who are working there and completing their CTE program at the same time. So it's pretty exciting that kids can really start their future. If they know what they want to do, they can start their future now.
So we have a lot of students that actually go on to the workforce right after high school as well. And they do get some very competitive positions. So, one thing that we've been talking about a lot in our region is artificial intelligence. It's pretty much permeating everything we're doing. We're all dealing with it. If we have a cell phone, we know we are using artificial intelligence. So the way that our programs are developed is through subcommittees. So we have an academic subcommittee that of superintendents. Superintendents volunteer to be on these different subcommittees. They work with Jim and our assistant superintendent of exceptional and early learning and our director of alternative ed. And the goal is that programs are either added or deleted based on the need. So we're constantly also looking at the workforce needs to create new programs. That's how the business program and that we're business finance and accounting program was developed, because there's a huge shortage of folks who are in that area. So we decided to create that program, and we are housing it at the Columbia Green Community College. So I know that advocacy is on everybody's mind, especially after the governor's budget came out. We have a partnership with Hinman and Straub. It's a government relations firm and advocating on our behalf. I've been talking to them since the budget came out. I've also asked them if they will do a workshop for board members on advocacy. And we are hoping that we can have a conversation later this week with our superintendents to kind of see if we can firm that up and get some dates and times that would work for board members. The advocacy focuses on state funding and other areas that will impact our school district. Foundation aid changes is a big one, and I'm going to ask Harry Adjuano, our deputy superintendent, now to come up and share what he has learned with the foundation aid changes.
Yes, one of the things that you have asked us to talk about was foundation aid advocacy. As you know, you are what they call a safe harbor school district. So just to give you a little history so you understand the background behind this, the issues that we are facing today. Back in 1993, there was a lawsuit brought forward by New York City, known as the CFE case or Campaign for Fiscal Equity. The lawsuit stated that New York City wasn't getting enough aid to provide its students with a sound education as required by the state constitution. The lawsuit went on for a few years. It was settled in 2005. Basically, the state said, yes, you're correct. The current state aid formulas are not fair enough to you, so we're going to change them and we're going to create this, what we call today foundation aid, right? So it kind of changed the way state aid for education has been calculated. It became the law. The new foundation aid formulas were established back in 2007, 2008. But it took the state 17 years to fully fund them. Last year was the year that the foundation aid finally got fully funded. The idea under the implementation of this new foundation aid formula was that the school districts that they were getting maybe a little bit extra, they would hold them harmless, meaning they would keep them at the same amount, and they have what they call a minimum adjustment every year, which usually was about 2%, even though Governor Cuomo, there were a couple of years that he reduced that amount. But they were held at what they were getting before and increasing a little bit every year to hold them harmless, while the other, the school districts that would benefit from this new foundation formula will get a lot more, so eventually the two would catch up, okay? So yes, there were two sets of districts. Some of them were getting state aid at a faster rate or increases at a faster rate than some other ones that they were getting small increases in their state aid. This year, under the governor's budget, we have new rules. And what are the new rules? The one thing that the governor said was that even though the law says that you're supposed to get an inflationary adjustment every year on the foundation aid, based on what the inflation rate was at December 31st of every year. So at December 31st of 2023, that inflation rate, we call it CPIU, was at 4.1%. Instead of using that 4.1%, this year, because they're in a fiscal crisis, they're going to use 2.4. So already they shrunk the amount of growth on the foundation aid. So that was the new rule number one. What is the new rule number two that impacts a lot of districts? The new rule is that, remember how we told you that we're going to hold you harmless. Well, we need some of that money back now, so we can balance our budget. So we are gonna take back up to 50%, up to a maximum of 50% of what the gap is between the amount of foundation aid that you should be getting under the new formula and what you are getting in the past, right? So in your case, like Dr. Franchini said earlier, the difference between what you got last year and what you should be getting this year based on the foundation aid formula is about $333,000. Based on your enrollment and where you rank against other school districts on your wealth ratios, they're not going to take 50% off. They're only going to take 48%. So in reality, they're going to cut the amount of foundation aid that you're going to get by $159,000. So it's about 48% of that $333,000. So that's a real cut. It's a reduction from what you guys got last year. But it's not that also, if you are under the assumption that your foundation aid will grow about that 2% that traditionally grew, you add that into the mix, really the cut is more like $500,000 because, the formula is not going to grow. It's going to decrease by the $159,000. So that is, that's bad news. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat that. But I also want you to realize what's happening statewide, all right? There's 673 school districts in New York State. How many of them do you think are getting more and how many of them are getting less?
337 are getting less.
337 are getting more,
No,
336 are getting less. So it's like half and half. So I don't know if some mastermind back there kind of figured this out and said, okay, I'm gonna split them even. But we'll leave that to the conspiracy theories. But the reality of it, when you talk about advocacy, right? Some of them are going to be advocating for things to stay the way they are. Some of them are going to be advocating for things to change back to the way they used to be. I would say this, in our region, we have districts that are losing millions of dollars. One district is losing $2.9 million. I don't know how you balance your budget. I don't care how big the budget is when you're losing $2.9 million. On the other hand, we have one district that's gaining $2.2 million. So it's a windfall for some. It's a challenge for others. And for some districts, the numbers are really, really big. So I know you are adversely impacted. $159,000 plus that growth rate that is not going to happen. It's it's going to definitely impact your tax rates. But I'll tell you what's happening, at least in our region and throughout the state. There is some big numbers that are impacting districts. Some positively, some in a negative way. So when you think about advocacy, I'm not sure how far things are going to change. I know in her interview, the governor was adamant about that she's not going to increase income taxes. I will say this, there's a lot of Long Island school districts that are being hurt. So I'm kind of hopeful that that's going to kind of push the envelope and force her to do something about it. But I think taking the position that, hey, you're changing the rules on us with no notice, I think that's a good argument to start pushing. And that's why Gladys is trying to put this advocacy meeting together with boards, because I think we all have a role in trying to do the best we can to at least keep the old rules in place. Don't have it's fine to give more money to the districts that the formula says that we should be giving more money to, but at least hold harmless the rest of the districts. I included a chart here that shows over the last few years, since 2015, what that gap was. You're gonna see that, obviously the gap as of this year is not as big as it used to be. Because for some years, we had a pretty large gap regarding how much you're getting from foundation and the aid, and how much you're actually getting. So that's what I had on foundation aid. I don't know if you have any questions.
I do. As it relates to foundation aid, it's been long acknowledged by pretty much everyone that the formula is flawed. I know nobody likes the word broken, so we'll use flawed. As it relates to getting the formula adjusted or corrected, it is frequently floated as almost like the carrot to pass the budget, and then it's not done for a variety of reasons that has been described to us. I'm curious, as it relates to your relationship with Hinman and Stroud, how much of their action relates to boots on the ground advocacy within the chambers of the Assembly and the Senate? How much interaction do they have with the elected officials, and how much pull do they have with the elected officials?
A lot. So they are constantly with the senators and the Assembly members, and they work very closely with the Department of Budget, Division of Budget. So they are very active, and they are right now creating some opportunities for superintendents in this region to start having meetings with the legislators. And they spend, when the budget is being developed, they're right there all the time.
But to Megan's point, are they advocating for a formula change or just for more funding?
Well, it depends. It depends where right now, we've been giving them, the concerns that the districts have shared. Dr. Franchini was one of the first ones that reached out to me and said, this is a problem. And I reached out to them and said, I'm starting to hear about these issues. So it depends what we as a group tell them to advocate for. Right now, we're focusing on the foundation aid.
But the formula that generates foundation aid is in fact flawed. And so it does not matter how much they apply to that formula. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. As it relates to grassroots advocacy, does Hinman and Stroud offer any opportunities for us as board members or for community members to be involved in this? I think it's very important for our local communities to be educated. So would someone be interested in hosting a town hall session for our local community members who maybe want to understand how this all works and how they're being adversely affected? And is there additional services that we could access? I've been doing a ton of advocacy work on my own, and some additional resources since the district already pays towards our stipend as members of Questar. It would be really nice to have access to those resources.
So, in terms of the one of the things that we talked about was having them do a workshop for board members. So, on how to go about doing advocacy. So that is something that we talked about, I spoke to them about. They are, so I hope that by Friday, when we come together with the superintendents, we can fine tune what we need, and perhaps some potential dates to bring together board members from our region. We invite all of our region to these activities, because, and then the way that we had talked about this advocacy project years ago. The way that we are funding it is really through some of the statewide programs.
And so you know, we have a program at Cuesta Free Bosses, it's called State Aid Planning, which the people that work in that department, that's all they do, state aid, okay? So as far as having town halls, educating your community, we got experts in that area. So we can customize presentations to your to your school district. We can have town halls, whatever you guys need to kind of educate your communities. We're more than welcome to do that. And we have the capacity, we got the people, we got the know-how. So it's not a heavy lift for us.
Time is of the essence, and I think that it would be really great. And just one final comment, if I may. And I understand that your intentions are pure to point out that districts in other parts of the state are more adversely affected than us. But I can guarantee you that a student losing a program here is not going to be consoled by the fact that a student somewhere else also lost a program, and a teacher losing their job here is not going to be consoled by the fact that a teacher somewhere else lost their job. I stood today shoulder to shoulder with other elected officials and school representatives in the effort to solve this problem for all 337 districts that are adversely affected. But I don't think that it would be appropriate to diminish the pain that will be felt in our own community with the fact that other communities felt additional pain. I just want to make sure that that's clear.
No, and I understand that. Again, my intention wasn't to diminish the pain that you guys feel. I understand exactly what you're talking about. My intention was to share with you what's happening throughout the state. That's all I was trying to do.
I think, unless I misunderstood, Hinman, you said Hinman and Straub has been there all along in the budget process? If that's true and the budget still came out the way it did and they were already involved, what hope do we have now that they're actually gonna make a difference?
Well,
Like if they were involved back then, before this budget proposal came out, I'm wondering what the difference is gonna be now.
They are there before the budget proposal. That is, I think until the governor put something out, that's kept very tight. They are there when it comes out, and they immediately start analyzing it so that they can inform all their clients. Now that the budget is out, they start the advocacy.
And I don't think anyone saw this coming, quite frankly. I mean, that was a surprise to. I know it was a surprise to me, and all the people that I talked to, it was a surprise.
It was a surprise the way that they went.
I appreciate that, but I don't think that provides us any comfort right now.
No, I understand that, but as far as how they came up with those ideas,
Yeah.
It's a mystery to us. I'm just making assumptions. They were talking about a budget deficit. At one point in time, they were talking about $8 billion. Then it came to like $4 billion. And I think I don't know what the real numbers are, quite frankly. I'm not even sure they do, but basically what they decided, we're going to balance the budget on the backs of the school districts, and that's where we need to do some advocacy work to kind of change that.
What is the process of the advocacy, getting a hold of them to find out what they are actually advocating for? And on
So
behalf of
they
whom?
work with, we're working with them, with the superintendents.
So
they're-
Jim has he
So
can send an
Jim
email?
will be, Jim is one voice on that superintendent group. And that's the way that we move this advocacy.
And then he just presents that, and then you guys decide from there?
So, and as I said, they're already setting up meetings with legislators so that our superintendents can join and advocate on behalf of our school systems.
Yeah, I guess my confusion is you said that you represent some districts that have gains, and then obviously us with a loss. How do we know that we are being represented fairly at the table, I guess is my question.
Well, I think the answer to that is our position is going to be that You don't have the districts that were supposed to be held harmless. I mean, that was what we were told for years. I mean, this has been going on for decades. All of a sudden, you know, we see them say, well, we're going to take, in 1 year, we're going to take 50% back from that safe harmless amount. You know, that's, well, I think that's at least the starting point, to say, okay, you don't have the, you know, you don't have the districts that are have to, you know, that are benefiting from the formula, but don't have the districts that you said that you're going to hold harmless. I mean, that was the deal from back in 2007, 2008.
So they're essentially not worrying about the districts who are going to be financially stable, the ones that are getting the money under the foundation formula. It's not like take from one to give to the other. They're solely advocating for those that are left with less money.
Exactly. They get additional money to the, because that was happening until now, quite frankly, right?
Right.
They were getting more money than you guys were getting, but you are being held harmless, okay? New rules, all of a sudden, oh, we're going to take 50% back.
What do you think is the likelihood that it passes as it is, that this law will, that it would come to effect as it is right now? Just based on your historical knowledge, obviously you can't know the future, I understand that.
Well,
It would be nice, but.
I think there's a, you know, the fact is, when you look at the state, you gotta look at where the votes are, where the, you know, where is the center of power? The center of power is downstate, okay, we all know that. But there's a lot of districts in Long Island that are being heard. So I'm hopeful because of that, you know, we're gonna be, you know, we stand a good chance. And the fact that, I mean, this came out of nowhere, you know, nobody was kind of expecting this.
As it relates to the appointments of elected officials, are they able to garner those appointments with officials of different districts? Because I know we were able to arrange meetings with our representatives, our local representatives, which, as much as they are extremely supportive, and I am internally grateful for their support, they don't garner a ton of power in their space. Thank you guys so much, by the way.
Thank you.
Understand it's a late evening for everybody, so good job. My curiosity is, are the representatives of Hinman and Straub, are they able to garner meetings with the education committee specifically? Are they able to get?
They do. They are able to get meetings with the chairs of the education committee. This weekend, I sent out a communication to the superintendents from Senator Mayer, and I think her message was, you know, that she hopes that some of this will be turned back. And today I was at a meeting with the district superintendents from across the state, and we had representative from Hinman and Straub, and we also had NISCUS representative. And there is hope that some of this will change back. That as the budget is, it will not be passed. So there's hope.
If you guys are gonna just wanna, like, just wrap up this part from what my understanding is that you guys upcoming have a meeting with our supers.
Right.
That's almost like a steering, a meeting for us, like a steering committee. I don't want to use this on today, but there's a possibility of a workshop for the rest of us that could be, you could take a number of different opportunities within that workshop. It's not a preset agenda in that workshop. And so, you know, from my point, I would want, obviously, Hinman and Straub, but then folks on the ground, if we could, you know, if we had a workshop, not just to have it be onto us as educating the board members, but also to have somebody, a stakeholder, somebody with some kind of power in that workshop, if possible. I think it would be a much better way to use our time, and we can only, be here at about the time.
So when you
around, guys, so Yeah,
When you
so just
say-
making sure that we're bringing stakeholders, that it's not just like an educating us, but there are other stakeholders besides, that we all know our talking points and we all know our issues and we're trying to push outside of our bubble. And so a workshop that would allow us to do that, I think would be really beneficial. And not just to help us kind of hone our message, but hone our message to the right people and collaborate with other folks. So Jesse, were you gonna? that's-
Yeah, and just so, how do we, let the community at large know how dire our situation is? Because, we talk about it, but I don't think people understand, so how can we communicate that? And how, if you said, I think Harry, you brought it up, that we could do a very specific data on Averill Park to educate our community, I think that would be helpful, because people need to understand that, to break it down. Because we are all volunteers who actually have other jobs that we work at, so the help with that would be really important, like Samantha said, to be able to communicate to our constituents.
Yeah, and we got the data people that understand the numbers, but we also have communication people that can, it's like, I got a spreadsheet for my numbers guys, okay, about what's happening in the region. Multiple pages, right? So we don't want to hand that out to the public. We want to make it, we have communication specialists that kind of make sure the points come across, right? So we can take some of the numbers specific for Averill Park and kind of create a communication document, not a bunch of numbers that you just give people, because then, they're going to get confused.
So, if you guys are good, I know there's a little bit more to your presentation. Thank you for talking with us about this. And I think that we do have, at least what I wrote down, there is we can see the next few steps coming out over the next few weeks, so I appreciate that. And Jim will keep us posted on where it goes. If everyone's good, unless you want to finish up.
Okay, so I'll try to make up some time. I know you have a long agenda and I don't want to keep, it's already almost 8 o'clock.
I'll take whatever questions you have.
So this is just an example of some of the services that you are purchasing. Obviously, special ed and CTE are the biggest components. Last fiscal year, you purchased about $4.2 million worth of BOE services. About $1.5 million was special ed. On the BOE A-level services, you purchased, it was $2.7 million, and you got back 61 cents on every dollar that you spend with BOE as BOE A. The good thing about the new budget, they didn't put any limits on expense-driven aids. What I will say to you is that your BOE ratio is 69.2%, but obviously you don't get the whole thing because of expenditures that are not available, so you only get back about 61%. These are some other opportunities that are available to you, some other programs. You had asked us about how do we minimize costs at Questa. I kind of rephrase it, how do we provide the maximum amount of value? We really have 3 cost centers at Questa 3. We got the administration budget, we got a rent and capital budget, and we have the BOE services budget. So it's kind of 3 different major cost centers, and we use different approaches for each one of those cost centers. So when you talk about administration, that's where we have a lot of statewide services that we sell services to non-component school districts. So by doing that, we're able to charge them an administrative fee. We take that administrative fee, we put it back into the administrative budget as a credit. So that way we keep down the cost to our components. So the last, this shows you our budget for the last 7 years. The blue line is the total budget. The orange line is what the real administrative, other post-employment benefits budget is. And the green line is what we actually charge the component school districts. So you're gonna see that over the last 7 years, the actual increase from 17-18 to 23-24 was 580,000. If you average it out, the increase is about 1.6%. So that's the administrative budget. That basically gives you the summary for last year. When it comes to rent and capital, we have a separate budget that is also like the administrative budget is allocated to all of our components based on resident weighted average daily attendance. So as that varies, also the percentage of allocation varies. You're going to see that budget over the last 5 years has been pretty stable, so we don't see a lot of increases. For the rent, what we're trying to do is maximize the use of our own facilities. So, and then we do rent some facilities from our component school districts. For example, about 15% of the rent budget comes back to Averill Park because we are renting the George Washington School from you. So that's about $186,000 a year. And then on top of that, you get what we call ancillary charges. That's about $120,000 a year. So as far as rent, 2 things we try to do, try to maximize the use of our facilities. We're currently in the process of doing a capital project to convert a warehouse into instructional space so we can expand our programs and kind of take care of our students. And also, try and rent from our own component school districts. Like I said, we do rent from Averill Park, and thank you for letting us use your facility. As far as capital, you're going to see that that's a steady amount every year, and what we try to do is try and maximize the dollars what we can do with that fairly small budget in the grand scheme of things. And we push back on a lot of the proposals that come. Sometimes from the architects, we kind of come up with the best cost-effective way of doing things to kind of keep the budget as low as possible. I mean, we just, in the middle of the pandemic, we completed it was a $12 million renovation over a 3-year period that we were supposed to do. We were able to do it, even though we had a pandemic, we were able to do it on time and under budget. So, we do a lot of the similar stuff that you guys do in your district. Then lastly, when it comes to BOE services, those are the various, we have almost 300 different programs. Some of them you saw tonight. What we do is, as a BOE, we gotta balance our revenues to expenditures. So, each one of our services stand on its own, meaning it has a set of revenues that it needs to match its expenses, right? So if a service, has too much payroll in it, or the expenses are over the revenue, you gotta bring it down. You gotta balance the two, because at the end of the year, we wanna be able to make sure that we met all our expenses. And our revenues and expenses are going to match. Ideally, we should be a zero fund balance entity, right? We should have no profit, no loss. What we try to do is have a little bit of a profit at the end of the year, because that comes back to you guys as a distribution, as a surplus refund. That's the term that we use for it. So you're going to see what the results of that approach has been. We are able to keep a lot of our rates with no increases. Some of them increased by less than 2%. Again, that's something that we keep doing year in and year out. And we use a bunch of, we have a health insurance trust, and we try and keep our health insurance rates under control, workers' comp consortium to keep our workers' comp rates under control. So we do a lot of innovative stuff to keep things under control. So I think that's.
I just want to call your attention to this one snapshot. It has a lot of the information we talked about tonight. It has the amount of district BOCES purchases, your aid ratio, the amount you get on every dollar spent through the BOCES, your surplus back to the district. On the back, you have some of the purchase programs and services, and then you also have the number of students attending the different programs. Yes, you have a question.
Yeah, so I'd like to go to the administrative budget slide. Because your proposal for from 22 to 23, 23 to 24, that budget is up 4.4%. And so we lost money last year on foundation aid, and so our budget didn't increase by 4.4%. So what are you going to do for next year's administrative budget, the 24-25, to keep that at the rate we're getting foundation aid? So can you cut whatever it is that you need to cut from this in the same percentage that we're getting cut on our foundation aid?
Right, now, what you're
Because
gonna,
we can't continue to afford this either. So how can you guys help us on your administrative budget?
I think if you stay there on the administrative budget, you're gonna see that even though the gross amount of the increase was indeed 4.4%, what you're also gonna see is that the actual cost, which was $140,000, that increased only by $2,600 or about 2%. So what happens with the administrative budget, we develop the budget, but then we credit you back with any interest income that we make, any indirect costs that we make on the grants, and also any administrative charges for statewide services. So even though I agree, the number is 4.4%, when you look at the net after BOCES aid and after the surplus, because we are able in that particular year we're able to, for example, what we budgeted was about $100,000 in interest income, but the actual interest income came a lot higher, so that's going to be credited back to you.
So, okay, so that refund back, that's not a guarantee, first thing. And second thing, I would argue we can't even afford the 2% at this point. So that's why I'm asking, what can you guys do to help us out here? I mean, great that we have this advocacy route, but we actually need to see a reduction in costs so we can continue to afford to pay our administrative portion of the budget.
Right, and what we are doing for this particular fiscal year, which is 24-25, we're working on the budget right now for the 24-25 fiscal year. What we have done is we looked at where we can realign some of our expenses. Also, what we did is we looked at how we can maximize our interest income, and we have made some moves to make sure that we're going to make more interest income so we can credit you back with that, and also try to generate more business with our statewide services so we can have another credit coming back to you guys.
Right, but that interest credit, like I said, isn't guaranteed, so I think the expenses needs to come down.
And that's a discussion that we always have, as part of our budget development. We have a discussion with our business officials and superintendents. Actually, we're having a discussion this Friday, okay, as far as rates and administrative budgets. Then we take their input. We rework the numbers if that's what needs to happen. And then once we do that, then we take it to our board for approval. So there's a whole process as far as how we develop the budget, how we float it to our superintendents and business officials, and then how we adjust it and then eventually bring it to the.
Okay, but yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I still think the 4.4% can't be 4.4% this year because, our BOCES aid, I think if foundation aid is getting cut, are they not looking at BOCES aid too to come back to these districts?
They haven't.
And then the interest, like I said, there's no guarantee. I get that you're doing some great things to be able to increase the interest that you get on the money so we can get a refund back, but that refund isn't guaranteed. But the 4.4% is sort of fixed. So, and that that 2% that we're actually paying on the increase can be variable because the interest coming back could be higher, could be lower. You could have some flooding like we did in summer of 21, where we had to spend $2 million to have our school ready, open. So that's not a guarantee. So that's what I'm saying, like, but the 4.4% increase was fixed. So how can you change that 4.4 to like 0? It's
Right.
what,
And-
it's what I'm getting at. So
that-
that's sort of a guarantee.
That's a good point. So, some of the expenses in the administrative budget are, you can control and you can shrink. Unfortunately, some of the expenses in the administrative budget, which is about half of the budget, which is the other post-employment benefit budget, and is for retirees that they served the district years ago, that we're paying for it now. And, you got very little choices as far as we can do.
Understood, but are those contracts as you move forward, like, are you doing things in those longevity contracts so that over time, what we're paying for retirees becomes a little bit more sustainable?
Right, so example, based on what you said, we used to pay, and I don't know what you guys pay for the retiree benefits, but we used to pay both family in retirement, so you used to pay for both the spouse and the employee. We have changed that to only cover employees. So these are the things that you're saying about kind of looking forward and trying and changing those contracts so you bring those costs down. But you have a certain amount of sunk cost that, those savings are gonna come down the road.
Yeah.
The sunk cost is the
We
sunk cost.
as board members all have to do that with our budget here to keep running our school district, so we understand.
And I think to Jesse's point, for context, our budget to budget increase for this year was a 1.63%. I think that's some of your frustration. We've been
Yeah.
trying to keep our costs very low, literally I just double checked myself, at 1.63 from year to year. So to see a number upwards of 4%, I think is a little unsettling.
It's unsettling because what it means is for programs where we're mandated to use Questar through, that 4% means we'll have to cut in other places to afford that. So that's why you're feeling some passion here.
Oh, no, I understand the part of that. Like I said, we face a lot of similar challenges that you guys are facing. And again, in the administrative budget, in general, is that what we try to do is try and do what we can with half of that budget, which is the retiree health insurance portion, right? So change the contracts, do changes in the future, so it brings down the cost, but also see what we can do to control the current cost. And the best way that we see to control that current cost is to try and maximize the amount of credits that we're bringing in from our statewide services. It's about $1.3 million that we're bringing in. We brought in last year to kind of minimize what is being passed on to you.
Again, I'm sorry, it's about 8 o'clock, so I'm just gonna keep going. Can you remind me of the process of how your budget gets approved?
For the administrative budget, what happens is we develop a budget, we present it to the superintendents and business officials, together with our rates, by the way, with all of our rates. Once we present that to them, we get any feedback from the various schools. Then we take that feedback into account. Then what we do is we go to then we work the numbers, we present it, and that happens in January, right? So in February, we present it to our Board of Education for approval. Then once they're ready and the budget is approved, then that's when we upload them in our system. And then for the services part of the budget, school districts choose what they want to purchase, and it's an annual contract. So you don't have to buy any services from us, right? It's on an annual basis. Based on what your needs are, you choose what services you're going to buy.
Do you provide the superintendents with like a line-by-line breakdown of the administrative so we can see what the breakout of cost is for things that are not required, like not the retiree benefits, which are required, but things like travel expenses and extra cost things. Do you?
We
provide a
don't,
breakdown of that?
usually what we do is we have a budget book that we put together that explains what's part of the administrative budget, and then it gives some, the total amounts. So that's, that's what we share with them. And I mean, we do a full presentation and they ask questions if they have.
And it goes to all of the board members in the region, that budget booklet. And then boards of education do get to vote on the administrative budget.
Out of curiosity, what happens if the board doesn't pass your administrative budget? What does that mean for you?
Well, basically, it goes towards called contingency budget. I would say that most of the budgets that we put together is at contingency or pretty close to that. And actually, as part of the presentation, we do have that information there of what happens if it goes to a contingency budget.
Okay. I want to thank you for your partnership and for expanding the opportunities for students in your districts, and you will get more information on the budget as it comes along.
And as part of the earlier conversation that we had, if you have ideas as far as when you're not present to your stakeholders, meaning to your taxpayers, let us know, and we'll have to do that.
Well, for sure, follow.
So Jim can bring us any suggestions.
Thank you.
Great,
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, well, now we're jumping to our first budget presentation of the year, the 24-25. Not only for the past couple of years, and it details the amount of our staffing for our custodial department. One thing we monitor is towards the bottom, we have the second shift square footage per employee. A couple of years ago, we added a custodial worker at the high school to bring that number down. And the number that we're still monitoring, we tried to get it in last year, was to help Algonquin out a little bit because their number is higher than the other buildings in the district. GW is a little bit different since it's a BOCES program, so we just tend to focus on the 5 buildings that we use. So if the funding were to allow, and we could hire an additional custodial worker, we would still try to focus at Algonquin. And if we did that, we could bring down the number there at that school, kind of more in line with the other buildings. But as we heard a lot about tonight, our foundation is not looking good. So, but this is, if we could make one adjustment, this is where it would be. Cost of utilities is still a budget pressure. We've been monitoring this over the past few years. As you can see from 21-22 and 22-23, those costs skyrocketed quite a bit. Cost of fuel went up significantly in those years. And we were also at a point during COVID recovery where a lot of our windows were open during the winter. So kind of help with the airflow. But that also isn't great for your heating bills. So this year we're actually trying to go a little bit better. Prices are down. It's been a little bit warmer winter and we don't have our windows open as much. So it's really helped our heating costs, but it is something that we still are following closely because it could be a big budget pressure. For equipment, the grounds crew has 3 requests this year. One is a trailer. We currently have 1 trailer for them to use, and what's happening in the department, they'll load their equipment onto a trailer, go to one site, have to come back, get a lawnmower, go to another site. So if we had 2 trailers, they could load up and just go to 2 separate sites, which would just be a little bit more efficient in terms of the operation. So that's why they're asking for that. The field top dresser, we don't have that, but that's to aerate our fields, and at the same time, it would like backfill it with soil. So just be a better way of maintaining our fields. And then the V plow is for a vehicle that we bought last year that we just need to put a plow on. So those are the asks that they have. On the custodial side, 2 wet dry vacs, which is just a normal replacement for wear and tear, and a speed scrubber, which helps with the stripping and waxing.
Something a little bit different that they're requesting this year is a contract for a GPS field marking robot. So the technology out there right now, they had a demo of this and they really liked it. You load it with the paint, put up the GPS, what kind of field you're marking, it will automatically mark the fields for you. So currently, our grounds department, when they do the fields, it takes a couple of them to do, and it takes many hours. So if you look at the bottom, you can see we have a total of 3 employees taking care of almost 69 acres and 11 athletic fields. So we have a small department that are responsible for a lot. So they're excited about this robot because they can alleviate some of the field lining that they do, which takes up a lot of their time. So they'll have time to maintain some more fields, or the property around it. So it's about $15,000 a year to get this robot, and we'll also save in some paint because it's more. 15,000, yeah.
Every year.
Yeah, the robot, if you do outright purchase it, I believe it's about it's expensive. And the one company we looked at, they'll give you new robots, so you're not like buying one and then have to like replace it. It's kind of you lease. So they like the lease option better than buy and have to, we'll have to replace it in a few years. Plus it would be a lot more expensive. So this is, I think of all the wish list items for the grounds department, this is the top priority for them. So. And it's just a cool way to use technology to make your job a little bit more efficient. So as Tony alluded to earlier, our maintenance department does a great job maintaining our facilities. So I always like to highlight some of the work that they've done in-house that we don't have to hire contractors for. It does save the district money. On the 23-24, they remodeled the PAFA classroom. They relocated crosswalks at West Sand Lake, moving the athletic training room here at the high school was a big one this year. Then this summer, we rekeyed the districts, all the district buildings, so they changed out every single lock in all of our buildings. That was a big project that they did. So every year, we look to try to find some of these smaller projects that they can pick off and try to budget for them. So 24-25, here's the items that we're trying to plan for within the maintenance budget. Some of them related to athletics, the pole vault, the football goal post, the main entrance culvert at AMS. They want to fix the drainage there because that front field always floods, and if they can fix the culvert, then maybe we can get a little bit more usage out of that front field. And also painting and repairing the main entrance at West Sand Lake would be a big one for them. They're gonna cap it off because they have birds living up there and it's turning into not a great situation. So that's what they're planning for next year. We would also like to continue the $100,000 capital outlay project. The current year, we're doing a security project at the high school. We would want to do the same project but Algonquin. So we'll just be taking those funds from the high school and then moving them over to the Algonquin and continue increasing the security at our district. In terms of transportation, we're not recommending any personnel changes there. Equipment, the one request is a pressure washer in the wash bay because it's rotted out, just needs to be replaced. It's hard to repair at this point. Last year, I spoke in my presentation about a need for an in-ground lift. There's safety concerns with the lifts in our bus garage. We have been able to include that in our phase 3 of our capital project. So we're not gonna have to use the general fund. We're gonna push that over to the capital fund and get that done in phase 3. So that's a good use of the funds over there. So the next topic is take a drink for. Electric bus legislation. So it's water. No, so this was legislation that was passed with the 22-23 state budget. And the requirements are that all school buses purchased by 2027 must be zero emission buses. So after that, after 2027, we got the proposition, we can no longer propose gas buses, we'll have to be proposing electric buses. On top of that, the entire fleet must be transitioned by the 2035. So I'm going to present to you tonight 2 different options in terms of a bus proposition and kind of walk you through a little bit of what it means for us and some concerns that we do have regarding electric buses. So the electric bus that we're looking at is a 64 passenger bus. With a price tag of $464,000. We decided that we would need a 3 battery bus rather than a 2 battery bus just because of the terrain here and the length of the routes that we have, that the 2 battery bus wouldn't be great for our department. So in terms of the charger, we also think a DC fast charger would be better for us because when our buses come back from the morning routes, we only have a certain amount of time to charge for the afternoon routes. And we think that we would need a fast charger in order to meet our needs. There is funding through the New York School Bus Incentive Program. So what that means is the cost of the bus, we would get just an incentive voucher. Our amount would be $147,000. We would turn in an older bus, so we get a scrappage bonus, 61, which would bring the price tag down to $255,000 for the bus.
The 147 comes off, that's like a credit back to us.
Yeah, it's a voucher, right, so
Yeah, yeah.
this particular grant, the dealership applies on the district's behalf to this program, so it's taken off, we wouldn't pay that back, so it doesn't come back to us if we take it off this.
Yeah, no,
Yes,
the
we can
language,
take off the
yeah,
sticker.
the way that you worded, I wasn't sure if it brings the price down to 147.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, yes, yeah.
Reduces it.
Yeah, so it's the cost of the bus minus the incentive,
Just-
minus the scrappage bonus, which we get for turning an old bus, we brings it down to the 255.
And what is our cost of a regular bus right now?
This current year for a bigger bus, we paid 147.
Buy more before 2027.
That's what.
Well, the larger buses, we can't buy gas ones this year, they don't have them right now. So you'll see in the proposition, we're actually focusing on we're replacing some of our smaller buses here, just because this is not the year that we can buy the bigger buses, but, on top of that, we would need the cost of the charger. Again, it's the fast charger, so the quote from the dealership is $28,000. There's charging vouchers available to take away the cost of this. I just don't, and it can be used for the charger and the installation cost. I just don't have the installation cost number yet. So it's not, the charging voucher would be deducted from whatever the cost of the charger and the installation costs are.
So the buses with an overnight charge, they won't run for both the morning and the afternoon shift?
No,
So
because the way we run our routes right now, so we do like the middle school, high school, we do the elementary school, so they're out they cover quite a bit of mileage. So they'd have to go out, do those runs, come back and charge in between to get ready for the afternoon. Overnight, the charge would be fine. We do not need a fast charger for overnight. It's just making sure that bus is ready to go out again. for
I guess
the
I'm
afternoon.
concerned about time of use on your electric bill and then your demand charge for during the day charging when your peak is already high.
Oh, there's.
Right, yes.
The bus ran out in the middle of a test run, ran out of charge, like there's many issues.
Yeah.
No, what
Understood, understood.
That's on the percentage of the distance that they can go by almost half.
But just to be clear, this is like essentially our.
We don't even have gas.
They can, but they can be so far away from each other, so that they can.
Yeah, what is the gas cost? How much, do you have any idea how much more the electric bill would be in comparison to what the gas bill is now, just for running them?
I don't, no.
Plus the infrastructure.
Right.
But yeah, I'll get to that in a second. That's the next slide.
We're ahead of
There's a charger and some of it, but yeah.
Sandy, do you have a question?
Yeah,
Okay, sorry.
That's okay, there's so much to talk about, we've already talked about this a lot too, just to clarify though, the charging voucher, no matter what, is 25,000, so we still have this installation cost that we don't know what it is, and it would not be covered, or would that amount of the charging voucher increase with the
The amount of the voucher doesn't increase, but so I just didn't, it's not gonna be 20,000 minus 25 and we pay 3 because there's gonna be some kind of installation cost. I just didn't have a figure to plug in there, so it'll be, say it's, I don't know, 15,000 for installation, 28 plus the 15 minus the 25.
Okay, that's, okay, again, that's what I just wanted to make sure that that's an added cost, so we're looking at,
275-ish
well,
for one.
but that's, oh yeah, with the installation, well, assuming, you know. So that's 100,000 more than what we're looking at for one, how many buses do we have?
It's coming up.
So,
keep going.
But yeah, we have a lot of buses.
so the electric buses, so right now, when we buy buses, we get aid back on those buses over 5 years. So when we do our bonds for buses, we're aided back over 5 years. The state has decided to change the amortization schedule for electric buses. So instead of giving us aid back over 5 years, we get it back over 12 years. So they're making us pay more and then spreading out the amount of time that we get the money back. So, and right now, our current replacement schedule is 10 years. So we replace our buses, try to do it every 10 years. So we'd be, it would make sense that we would keep them to 12 years because that's how long we get the money back on it for. But it's a change because it's, changing how quickly you age. If you're gonna keep it at 5 years is my opinion. But another question we have is battery life versus vehicle life. So there's newer buses, like electric buses are newer, and there's not a lot of data on terms of how long the batteries are gonna last, and there is battery degradation over time, particularly northeast weather, we'd be running the heaters, like they're gonna degrade, so replacements of battery life versus vehicle life, there'll probably be some battery replacements in there if we're keeping them this longer amount of time. Some longer term concerns, the distance capabilities of batteries, we mentioned before, the weather, the terrain, we have the mountain here in the district, so it's just a little tricky in terms of how far we're gonna be able to get on the charges, which means we might have to increase the fleet size to the length of runs, because if we can't do the run lengths that we're doing right now on the charges, we're gonna have more buses to do shorter routes. So that's just something, as we've gone through this planning stage, what we're trying to think of how our fleet might morph over time if the capabilities. Now granted, the technology could change, it's changing so rapidly. In 5 years, it could look like a totally different picture, but this is just how we're planning right now, what we're thinking about. Coordination of charging of off-site locations. This is more once you get to the latter end when you have to convert your whole fleet. But sports, there's going to be coordination of charging. So Averill Park going up to a Burnt Hills game, how are we going to charge once we get there so we can get the kids back to Averill Park? And field trips. Going out on field trips, are there going to be chargers available for our kids at the field trip location for our buses? Or we're going to have to go there, then back, charge there, then back, depending on how far the field trip is. So just things as a transportation supervisor, like Mark is thinking about. Batteries are expensive, so if we do have to replace them, that's an issue. There's currently no small bus availability right now. So on the gasoline side, we don't have the big buses. The electric side right now, we don't have the small buses, but we will need small buses for our fleet because we particularly use them with our special education runs, our smaller runs.
How many buses in our fleet now, roughly?
70.
70?
Yeah.
That's what she said.
The bridge ratings, this isn't so much our concern, but it's just like a townwide concern, or the rural bridges. With the buses are heavier, and the ratings on the weight for some of the bridges is just concern in rural areas, just in general. And then infrastructure upgrades. Over the past year, Mark and I worked with a consultant in coordination with NYSEG. They came out, we talked to them about our route schedules, we gave them our bus fleet, they came and they looked at our garage, and one of their engineers came out and they provided with us a plan, like if the way we laid it out and speaking with them, the make-ready cost of our bus garage, again, full fleet electrification, not just one bus, is estimated about approximately 3.2 million. So for districts to totally electrify their fleet, their infrastructure upgrades will be a heavy investment. So that is just a fact, not just for our district, for every district out there. It's going to be a big lift in terms of upgrades.
Sorry, Carrie, and is there any, the buses are eatable over 12 years, right? But are any of those, and besides, again, you talked about the vouchers, but is any of that of the make-ready estimate, is any of that eatable?
Well, this does include, there's also some funding opportunities out there too that we could apply for to try to offset some of these costs. So that's not included there. This is just a straight, here's based on their design and the different estimates they had for panels and transformers. That's what they came up with their make-ready amount. It's a draft report right now, but I'm happy to share it with the board if you'd like to look through it.
But to be clear, none of the the reimbursement opportunities are for 100%. So,
yeah, and some of the work is available for transportation aid, not building aid. So will aid some of the work too through the state. So there is funding that we can apply for. And then we need to work with our architects a little bit more, because the make-ready plan we have is from the engineer, but our architects, we really have to come out here and help us really design it for us to do that.
is there added cost for mechanics and then training and development for the drivers? Is there some specialized training? They ride different, they drive different, that kind of a thing?
They do. So the drivers would need some training. To me, I feel like that's more of a smaller obstacle, just because you look at some of the other districts who are implementing electric buses. But yes, they would need training. Mechanics would need training too as well. The bus dealers will help with that a little bit in terms of training the mechanics on the way that they have to repair and maintain these buses. They are, over the long haul, supposed to be cheaper to maintain.
I have two questions. One is, because you said the morning run and then the afternoon run, and then there's also an after-school bus, right? So then, will there need to be a charge in between there? And then also, what if we lose power overnight? I know it's never happened here before, but it could happen. Do we have a generator for the bus garage, or is that like something we would have to do? Because I mean, if we lose overnight, we get it back at 8 AM, I'd hate to lose a school day because we have no buses.
Right, yeah, we don't currently have a generator at the bus garage, no, but that is, yeah, something to consider. And now the way that these, I understand the fleets are managed are software packages, so you can manage like, offsite locations to see when the buses are on and off, but that is true, that's a good point, we might have to consider putting a generator in if,
Then the after school buses, like, will they have enough battery with the afternoon runs, or that would have to be different buses? I would just hate the after school bus, it's so late already, if you moved down, I would.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, because then you also have to consider, your sports trips and your, all of that
Yeah,
go
you're
out
going to
too.
whatever
So,
the farthest-
I mean, at the beginning, that won't be so much of a factor because we won't have a fully transitioned fleet, but at the time when we do get a fully transitioned fleet, then that would be something that would have to be thought of, like, I'm not gonna push to say it's Mark's problem, but it's gonna be him and his staff who are gonna have to work on how to manage the different buses in terms of charges. And then replacement costs without grants, I showed you a slide before with the electric bus in terms of like, there's funding right now to offset the cost of them. I'm nervous about like in 10 years, when everybody started to get all these buses in, is there still gonna be grant money to offset the cost of these buses when we need to replace them, when we start getting to our, our second? Maybe at that point, the cost of vehicles will have come down a little bit. That's what everybody keeps saying. Eventually, the technology gets better, they'll get cheaper. But that's just something long-term down the road in terms of replacing if we buy them when we go to the next cycle. So, option number one is we do, more of like the traditional 3-passenger, we're doing 21 passengers with wheelchairs. Our wheelchair buses need to be replaced, and we are seeing a higher number of students that need wheelchair transportation. So we're recommending 3 of those buses, and then 6 of the 30-passenger bus, which is essentially the same bus, but just without the wheelchairs. So the total cost of that bus proposition would be $913,000. For option number 2, we reduced one of the 30 passengers, the 5, we went from 6 to 5 in the 30-passenger bus. So we reduced one there, added in the electric bus. Speaking with Mark, said if we needed to bring that one down a little bit more, his recommendation would go to 4 of the 30 to try to offset the cost of the electric bus. So those are really the 2 options that we're looking at. And O&M, we still need one more truck replacement in order to be in a good shape with our O&M fleet. We're looking for another enclosed utility truck. We'd like to replace our 2008 van, which is 110,000 mile. And really the big issues with that is the transmission needs replacement and electrical issues throughout that truck. So that was really an end of life vehicle. So we're looking to replace that one. So you want to have a discussion on electric buses now, or you want to just wrap this up real quick? There's one more slide.
Can I just ask one clarifying question?
Yeah.
Does that also include any other vehicles owned by the district? Do we have to convert?
Like all the maintenance vehicles and everything?
Right, or like any of like the vans or anything that we use for other transportation?
I don't, if it's used for transportation, like if we had a van that we were using, we would probably have to convert that one, because it said, but I don't think maintenance vehicles were, I'll have to double check, but I don't think they were included.
It just occurred to me that like we have other vehicles other than buses.
Right.
Katie, just my only question is the sort of, normally I'm like a plan ahead, like get in the door as quick as you can kind of girl. But with this, with all the question marks around this, just financially speaking, like waiting to be the last people in the door on this, again, just given like our particular terrain and mileage and funding,
Financial
right?
situation.
Funding, right? Like, are we shooting ourselves in the foot to exercise caution? Like, would we come to regret, is that penny wise and pound foolish? To wait, let other people's electric buses break down for a couple of years and then bite the bullet? I don't even know, but like, is there a scenario where we sort of sit tight, fly on the wall, and then, but if we jump in at the last minute, then do we get hosed? Is there not enough time for grants? Is it,
Vouchers, right?
what's that?
The extra funding, like the vouchers and that sort of.
Yeah, is there like a penalty for being last in the door?
There's not a penalty for being last in the door. And there is a lot of talk at multiple levels throughout the state, from the school districts to our organizations to even like the state, about not getting rid of it, but expanding the timeline out, because it truly is an unrealistic timeline for every school district in New York State to have their fleets converted by 2035. It is just not, it's not reasonable. The supply isn't there, the electric infrastructure isn't there. It's not, I don't think it's an attainable goal. So the hope is that those timelines will shift just a little bit more to make it a little bit easier to transition in. However, that being said, by 2027, if we start our buying then and we have to convert by 2035, that gives us 8 years to convert our entire fleet. So that's tight, especially when we just, replace a few a year. So that's kind of the gamble. If we, I'm sure Mark would be good waiting. I'm comfortable waiting, but it's just,
But on the flip side, and to some of Samantha's points, wait till other districts work out the bugs, but they might not talk about all the issues that they have. So, and I'm not sold on this in any way, shape, or form, but there is sort of merit to understand what is our impact with having one bus on our demand charges, on our, how do we schedule our fleet electrification, because you can't plug them in all at once. You're gonna have a huge demand charge on your bill, and then you're gonna have that spike that you're gonna be paying for when you don't need it. How do we put in a system that says, okay, we're gonna charge these buses so overnight where the costs of electricity are lower, if you have real-time pricing, then it's like, okay, so then it's steady overnight. There's no huge demand charge that we have to get paid. So some of those issues beyond just operating the vehicle and taking it out on the road and the concerns we have it, making it, to its destination and back, and just charging it in between and all that stuff. And that it just is amazing to me that we can't do one charge overnight and have it run all day. I don't know why that is, because that doesn't make any sense to me, but that's neither here nor there. But I think, so I would advocate, is there merit to getting our feet wet and understanding it, so then when we do have to expand, we do it smarter. But that, it's like some of the same concerns Sam has, I have, but I guess approaching it in a different tactic, so.
Yeah, and I think they're both,
Yeah.
they both have merit, right? So
Right.
I don't know, which way is. That's why when Mark and I were talking about this, it's like if we do start, we'd start with one, because
for sure.
that's, all we could do.
But even if we do that, the technology could change. So even if we learn from that first one and they get better at charging and better at whatever.
But you need people to do that, so it does get better too. And if all the districts are going, hey, let somebody else.
They don't all have
Yeah,
Tamerton.
whatever.
They don't all have Tamerton.
It's never gonna move.
One last question, what is the current wait time for a bus? From what I have heard, there's a big backlog on being able to even get one that's like ready to go.
Yes, I don't know what the current backlog is, but just speaking with some of my colleagues who have already got them passed last year, I was at a meeting before at the end of the calendar year, and they still hadn't received their buses. So, yeah, so there is definitely a backlog on them. But then another one said that they got theirs right away. So I'm not sure. I don't know.
Just curious, will any of them bring a bus out and do our route with Mark, potentially?
As a vendor.
We could ask some of the vendors to see if they would do that.
Just to do a fun run.
Yeah, because like they know.
I am not for this by any means, but just for them to do.
Yeah.
Fun run.
Yeah, we could ask them to see if they bring one out to.
Just curious.
Part of the problem is if we run out the battery, I'm not sure how they're getting it back to wherever they're
That's
going,
their
so.
problem.
That's
Yeah,
their
we don't have
problem.
chargers.
Yeah, we don't have the chargers for them to use, but.
Back to you, Karen.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
The last thing is just in the technology department. This was on the presentation last year, and we kicked it for a year. Our wireless access points are at end of life, so we do need to come up with a plan to replace them. We will be using E-rate money to offset the cost of the wireless access points, but The 24-25 budget estimate would be about $160,000 to start the rotation. If there's any questions, I'm gonna kick it to Matt because this is really his wheelhouse. And I'm just the messenger on this one. I don't know if there's anything else, Matt, you wanted to add to that?
No, I mean, I think the biggest thing is, I think we have about 3,000 devices that rely on our wireless at this point. So it's probably the most critical piece of technology we have in the district. Unfortunately, fortunately, there was a plan, I guess, a few years ago, there was a capital project used to do the major upgrade to the wireless at the time. It's great. It's a one-shot deal. You can forklift your whole enterprise by doing it. The problem is without a replacement plan, that stuff ages out. And that's kind of where we're at now is we don't have a large sum of money to be able to do it. We can phase it in. As Kerry said, the E-rate does allow for us to do this over multiple years and get 50% of that cost back or discounted. So it's a good program to take advantage of. So we're trying to maximize that while softening the impact on the budget, but it is a critical piece for us.
That's it. So. Yeah, presentation done. Yeah, so just like over the next, I don't know, be looking for guidance from the board in terms of which way we're leaning at some point in terms of the proposition because we'll take more serious looks in terms of like the installation costs for getting the charger installed and can gather that more information. At some point, we'll need some direction of whether we want to jump in this year, wait another year, or how we'll want to tackle our bus fleet electrification. So.
Yes, when do you want the information?
It doesn't have to be tonight. You guys can think about it, and if you come up with any additional questions or anything that you want me to get more information on, let me know, and I can do that and take it from there.
We'll be talking budget the rest of the evening.
Yeah, that's okay.
Every week or something. Matt will be next. There'll be opportunities. So
Thank you, Carrie. I don't even know where my agenda is.
Yes, thank you, Carrie, very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. Right, agenda, we're gonna vote on some stuff, I guess. Everyone's good, right? To move on from the budget presentation, okay. Well, there's a lot of questions, it's good, it's good. We're doing good, there's lots of intelligent questions, okay. So we just need a motion to approve the minutes of the December meetings. That's Megan first, Michelle second, any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor? Any against? Any abstentions? Adam abstains, and that passes. I need a motion to pass consent agenda 7, 8, and 9. Jess and Megan seconds. Any discussion? Jess.
I just want to take a minute to thank the Averill Park Booster Club for their donation to help fund the transportation for the softball team. I also want to take a moment to thank the Averill Park Education Foundation for their generous donation for multiple purposes. One for purchasing a sensory equipment at Miller Hill Sand Lake, one to purchase Lego Education Spike Essential Kits for grades 1 through 6. For a one-day performance by homespun occasions at the high school, all enriching our children's education. So I thank them for all their donations. And one more thing, I just want to acknowledge and wish Kristen Card the best in her upcoming retirement. She has spent 31 years with the district, and I know she's done a lot of work in a lot of arenas, and I just wish her the best in her retirement and thank her for her service.
Thank you, Jessica. Any, Michelle?
I do have one question. I don't know, I should ask this on here, but on the obsolete items, and it's just because I'm newer, do we typically do we auction those off or are those just actual disposal?
So This year, we did our first live auction. Typically, we do. These two vehicles are very old, and they've kind of been sitting out back behind the bus garage. I'm not sure if they have any value to them, or if they're just more of a salvage. Certainly try to throw them up on the auction. They don't run. They've been salvaged for parts and but you can see if they get any value. But typically, yes, we started, everything we were doing that's obsolete, unless it's really not worthy, we've been auctioning off. We've auctioned off, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Okay, I just wanted to check mainly like the process of it, being newer, so. I figured you were on that. Can I ask a question, actually? This is more of a clarifying question. Our food service program, we transitioned that through Questar. Am I correct about that? Or no?
It's actually through Cap Region. It's through BOCES, but just different BOCES.
Different BOCES, okay.
Anybody else? Awesome. All right, all those in favor of passing the consent agenda, that is unanimous. Okay. Action items. Can I get a motion to approve the agreement by between Averill Park Central School District and St. Coleman's Home for Educational Services for Handicapped Children residing in the district? For our attached agreement, Megan first, Adam second, in discussion, St. Coleman's. Good. All those in favor? That is unanimous on that. Need a motion to approve revised 23-24 calendar, and that was just one small change. Megan first, Adam second. Well done, guys. Any discussion? Awesome. All right, all those in favor? That's unanimous again. And last action item, I need a motion to approve the change order PCCO02 with, I'm going to say this wrong, Desire Mechanical Inc. So that I should just share what they said. In the amount of, it's like, $4,658.58. Removal of water softener from the high school and its storage for future use at Mount Hill. And the change order PCCO03 with, thank you, in the amount of $105,371.51 to solid green sand filtration. Megan first, Adam second. You guys are getting good at this. Any discussion? Thank you for the assistance with the name. All those in favor? That is unanimous as well. Okay, policy items. There's a lot of those tonight. So we'll start with first reading on 0110.2 sexual harassment in the workplace. If anybody has, if anybody wants background, if anybody has questions, this is mandated, right? This is very tightly tied to, very tightly tied to the state law. Anyway.
I make a motion to adopt as written
I'll second.
and waive the second reading.
I'll second.
Okay, that's first by Adam to waive second, and seconded by Megan. All those in favor? Oh, sorry, discussion.
Oh, yeah.
Because we just had some discussion.
We
The
have to
policies,
open up the
right,
floor.
and-
We have to
yeah.
open it up.
It's now we're, yes, so, discussion, 011.2. Hearing no discussion.
Yes, thank you for making a motion to approve this.
Thank you for
It
making-
was a little onerous when we were reviewing it, the policy committee.
All those in favor? That is unanimous.
It was really more of a course in sexual harassment.
I
than just
totally
policy.
That's right. You said the same thing. We said the same thing.
You feel,
Very detailed.
I understand.
I guess it's better to have too much detail, too little. In some cases. All right. Policy 1740, this is a relationship with non-public schools, fairly kind of the opposite of. If anybody has any questions or comments regarding that.
So yeah, I have a couple suggested edits. So we go down under textbook loan item, there's some numbered bullets, following rules apply regulations govern the loan and textbook. It says if lost or destroyed, the textbooks must be paid for. I think it should be if lost, if materially damaged, lost or destroyed, right? Because there's cases where it's not lost, it's not destroyed, but half of it's gone and you can't use it.
Does that count as destroyed?
Well, all right, I'll
I mean-
defer to you guys, I'm just raising it.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but.
Yeah. It just, I guess the question is, does destroyed indicate unusable?
I would say lost or damaged would be appropriate because you could be missing, 4 or 5 key important pages. If it's a history textbook and you're missing something really integral to history in there.
But I mean, I think again, the case, and Kim, if you feel the need to chime in, my interpretation would be that if it's a history book and you're missing a page, then it's destroyed.
Fair
Or is that, am I being a drama queen with that? Rip out one page and the whole thing's out the window.
Have you guys gauged that?
Yeah, is there a definition of destroyed?
Or, I mean, or is it as simple as just saying lost, damaged,
I
and
don't
destroyed?
think books, I don't think they'll come to my desk, so I'm not quite sure how to believe it.
She's like, what are these books?
I guess if
I've
you
not
say
seen
lost,
it.
damaged, or destroyed, you cover all
All
bases.
bases. So, Kim, is it just as simple as just adding the lost, damaged, or destroyed? And then we can,
Well, he's got other things.
oh yeah, I'm
I
sorry,
got one more.
bring it on.
So in the paragraph below it, last sentence in there, it says, textbooks must be non-sectarian in nature and may not carry the endorsement of a religious authority. It sort of implies that if a religious authority endorses a text, suddenly it's taboo. Like, I think the spirit is that we don't recognize any religious organization's endorsement as evidence that a book is authorized for use. But their authorization shouldn't then prohibit it from use, which is where this sentence was hitting me.
An endorsement.
I think that I don't wanna assume intent, but I think that the intent is that there would be no outside religious instruction in public school. And so it implies that the endorsement of any religious entity of a text would then imply religious instruction.
Maybe, but I think you're reaching.
I'm not reaching, I'm just guessing.
Yeah. Like I would say delete that sentence because I don't know if it has any value to our policy. Who cares whether something's endorsed or not by a religious authority? We care
Well, you'd
about
be
the
surprised.
authorities that, whatever above there.
I think in a diverse environment with a school community that spans many denominations, if we're going to have text that's endorsed by one denomination, then we should legitimately have text endorsed by all denominations. Otherwise, you risk discrimination claims by any party who feels the denomination endorsing the text excludes them. And so then we're getting into, arguing religious ideologies, which is really not what our goal is. It's not our job here.
Well, but then where does it end?
So-
Because then you have the
Well, that's my
library
point.
books and everything. I mean, I think we're.
So if I'm reading Of Mice and Men and some Christian organization says, yeah, this is a good book, it's got a good message, suddenly it's no longer a textbook for us.
What does it mean to have the endorsement of religious
So
authority?
that's right, so that's where I went to, and I looked up 2 words.
You don't know?
I looked up the definition of endorse, we all know, right? But
What if we just?
endorsement, a form of public support or approval given to politicians, products. If you give somebody an endorsement, you're basically saying, I approve of this person.
Right. What if we ended
I
up?
also looked up the word, I looked up the word imprimatur. I don't know why that word came into my head. But the imprimatur is like a more official, is a guarantee that something is of a good standard. That's like a layperson's definition, but actually it's an official license by the Roman Catholic Church to print an ecclesiastical or religious book, which I just found interesting. And I think, the reason I brought that up is because I think that the intent is that, any religious organization can have, this book is good, it encourages neighborly behavior, and that is whatever. But if it is, this particular entity, the church of this, says, here, read this, we think that you should be reading this, then maybe that's where if it's more of an official, like.
I think we're creating more of an issue.
Can we
than
just
are creating
say
an issue.
textbooks must be non-secretarian in nature? Are you worried then that something like West Bend could be deemed secretarian?
Well, and what's the difference between a textbook and then literature works that you study in a literature class? I don't understand.
Or in a library.
Yeah, right, that's what I mean, so you have your textbook and
Get
then
very
just,
sticky.
yeah.
Textbook, because like if you go to parochial school or any of the other schools, your home district pays for your textbook, so whatever, like the generic, in the old days, we had those old school social studies books. I mean, I think it's separate from the library, because textbooks are meant to be a certain type of book.
And when you go to the library, you're selecting a book, you're not
Correct.
instructed to read the book, so, so when you're.
Textbooks are like rudimentary, yes.
Right, and
exactly.
Are they saying like textbooks that are like published by a certain religious denomination versus somebody who's, this, religion, and I say it's a great book? I mean, how do you know if some church out in New Mexico said, oh, this is a great book, you should read it, or it was published by the Church of Latter-day Saints or whoever? There's a difference between
Endorsed.
published.
Well, and the school isn't endorsing the religion.
Right.
But so could we satisfy it by just saying textbooks must be non-secretarian in nature?
I think that's okay.
Let's just end it there.
Does that?
Because we're not, if it carries the, right.
It
sounds like a
No,
You
exactly.
can't ever know who's endorsed it. Like, you can't, unless it's stamped
Unless you
because
hire
I
somebody to
published
literally
it.
track the.
Can we ask, so these come from NISBA? Can we ask what the actual, remember what I always say, the tag on your hairdryer that says do not use while sleeping, it's there because somebody did it and it didn't go well. Why is this sentence in there? Can we ask NISBA why it's there so that we can get clarification on the intent of the sentence?
Yeah, I can even, I'll email the.
Maybe we're overthinking it or
Oh, that's-
misunderstanding.
Well,
No,
that's just
I-
because.
So we should take.
I think it's a good
That's on the
question.
table, we can-
I would like to know if it's the way, if it's written that way in the statute, or where that came from. I think that's a good question.
I thought you guys wrote it.
I'll check in with Jessica.
I don't use the word non-secretarian often.
Or maybe-
Or secretarian, excuse me.
Should we table it? Wait for second reading,
Okay.
hear what they have to say about it.
I think.
Wait, so just to bring it all home, is everybody comfortable with moving this to a second reading upon?
We'll find out what
Adding
that's,
the word
yeah.
damaged and then Kim investigating and then maybe truncating that sentence.
Yeah.
Or
Okay.
if we can truncate that sentence and run it by NISBA and they're still okay with it, it doesn't take out the meeting, then is that our preferred?
Kim, you
Yeah.
know the proposed sentence that we want to do? Okay.
That's good.
Okay.
I like that.
That's fine.
Good job.
Can we vote on that?
No, we don't use it. Yeah, we're not.
Just first
Bring it
reading.
back for a second reading.
All right. Policy 4321, programs for students with disabilities. This was a long one, I remember. It is done.
Since Megan is an expert on this stuff and she hasn't commented yet,
You wanna jump in?
I make a motion to waive the second reading and adopt as written.
I would second that.
Okay, first by Adam, second by Megan. Any discussion on that?
Just to clarify that the vast majority of this is straight out of the handbook for services, so there's really nothing to discuss.
Okay then. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of adopting 4321, that passes unanimously. Okay. Policy 4772, graduation ceremony. Comments, changes, edits. Adam, go ahead.
I will make a motion to waive the second reading and adopt as written.
And then seconded by Jackie. Any discussion? 472. All those in favor of adopting as written? That is also unanimous. I saw your hand went up. Okay. It went up and down fast. Uh, 6,700, purchasing, this was, I think, a small edit, because we did this one like last year.
We added the salt.
We added the salt, oh, yes, the salt packets per the new law.
Right, that was what we added, Kim?
Yep. Okay, any comments, discussion, Adam?
Yeah, sorry, I'm
Yeah.
trying to find where it would be referenced. I think it's in section E in the SALT preference.
Yep.
Go down to general purchasing provisions. Paragraph that's the next two paragraphs down says no board member, officer, or employee of the school district will have any interest in any contract entered into by the board or the district as provided in Article 18 of the general municipal law. I'm just looking for clarification. So if one of our teachers has a side gig making t-shirts and gives really good prices and we want to do business with them, does that now prohibit us from doing that?
I think it does. There can be no personal enrichment from anyone's, so like, we cannot be personally enriched from our position on the board, employees.
Conflict of interest.
Conflict of interest, right. So I think that it does, but does that then also apply to immediate family members like spouses?
No.
I would say yes, because your nuclear family is getting enriched. I would say that is a direct benefit to you. A conflict of interest if your spouse gets I think more not in terms of t-shirt, but like construction contracts. We award your spouse a construction contract, you're being enriched by that contract. I think that would be a
And it's
conflict of
not
interest.
just as simple as abstaining from the vote, right? I mean, this is very real for, Jeff's company makes salt, literally. So, well, road treatment, no, I'm not saying, like, if you guys needed to, treat the parking lots. It would be more than just me abstaining, it would be.
Well, he doesn't own it, he's an employee of the.
That is true. That's true.
So, I mean, I think all of us have somebody in our family that does something that the school uses. So, I mean,
That's kind of why I'm asking.
yeah.
Unfortunately,
It's gotta
though,
bleed in a
it's
small town
related-
that way.
Right, but unfortunately, it's related to Article 18 of the general municipal law, so I guess, do we need to actually know what Article 18 says?
Looking it up.
No, it's not giving advice on record, no.
I mean, again, we can table this and look that up unless we're.
Yeah, I was just looking for clarification really, like, I'm okay with that, like, I don't have any strong feelings either way, I just wanna know which way it goes, so I can abide by our policy.
Yeah, I think we probably need to be best informed about what it says so that we know that we're not breaking the rule.
Our current policy has this in it.
Yeah, but we still don't know we don't know what it
Of
means,
course,
so
of course.
we could be inadvertently doing something wrong and not know.
Well, we'll all be back here in a couple of weeks. So it's not like we're tabling it.
So, if I were going to suggest edits, I have in my career signed a lot of non-compete agreements, which prevent me from having any material interest in a competitive product or company. And they then define material as being beneficial ownership of 3% or more of the outstanding shares, something like that. So if you could quantify what interest means here, then that's a hard line that people can live within.
Usually it's financial interest if we have to do the public office.
Right. Or if it's or if that's all laid out in Article 18, then you would be
Yeah,
satisfied.
yeah, true.
We can absolutely look that up, get clarification. Kim, that's just to get, just, I would say before the next meeting, is that doable?
To look up Article 18?
Yeah.
Then Carrie's looking at it.
Carrie's looking on that.
I'll send them the same.
Oh wait, we haven't brought this up first, so we can.
It's just the first reading.
Can we,
Yep,
this is the
just
first
table it
reading,
for a
we
second.
can,
Move it to a second
move to
reading.
8210.1.
We need 67.
Oh my gosh, 6710. Thank you, Maurice. No, that's okay. They merged into one, 6700, not for me. Okay, 6710, purchasing agent. That's,
I would make a motion to waive the second reading and adopt as written.
and Megan seconds. Any discussion? Purchasing agent, 6710. All those in favor of adopting 6710 as is? Any against? Any abstentions? Nope. Passes unanimously. Okay. Just to clarify, 6700 is table. Correct. I'm going on to, for the second reading, yep. Not table. 8210.1, discussion, surveillance cameras on school property. Adam?
Yes. It's a good policy and it's very sort of timely policy in that it's becoming more and more important. I'm wondering, it didn't say anything about a retention of video policy. So when we take images, I didn't see anything about how long we're obligated to keep them or to get rid of them by.
They're not to be removed, right?
Well, can't keep them forever.
I know, I agree, but I mean, you're right, there is nothing in there.
Right, so like, I was surprised that whatever template we got didn't have that in there, so I thought I'd raise it.
Just says retaining.
Original form, secure. I think there's a policy on, there is a, like, records retention policy. And so I feel like we
Those are
just.
cross-referenced.
Which is 11.
Yeah. So I wonder if that, does this count as a
It
school
would be a
district
record of
record?
the,
And then it would fall under, because I do believe, like, if I remember,
Yeah, this cross-references 1120 school district records.
which I believe does have time,
Are these subject to FOIL?
the policies or the
The
videos.
videos, are they subject to FOIL?
Oh, I'm getting
I don't see how they
yes,
would
right?
be, it's a public place. I don't know what privilege they would be protected by.
Mr. Engel's giving a big up and down yes, yeah.
Yeah, they would be,
Yeah,
yeah.
so there's 1120 gives the law by which we have to abide by for retention of records.
This is just a notice that there are school cameras.
Yeah, it's just letting people know that they're there and we're using them. Yeah.
Is that, do you guys feel comfortable with that cross-reference doing its job?
I'm looking through 1120 quick. Does it say anything about retention?
It's their schedule, LGS 1 issued pursuant to Article 57A of the Arts and Cultural Affairs Law, which contains legal minimum retention record periods for district records.
So it cross-references something else.
Yeah, we're following the law.
Attention is what.
In 1120, it's we're following the law.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good with that then.
I'll make a motion to waive second reading and adopt the policy as written.
Thank you, and Jackie seconds that. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, 80, oh, I almost said 1120, 8210.1, thank you guys, that's, is unanimous, thanks. All right. Moving right along, 8414.5, alcohol and drug testing of drivers. Any discussion, I can turn this over to you guys. We discussed this at nauseam, go ahead.
Sorry, I got one.
No, go for it. We're gonna
Yeah.
have to
So,
Vice Chairman.
under driver prohibition, No driver is permitted to use alcohol after being involved in an accident in which there was a fatality or in which the driver was cited for a moving violation and a vehicle was towed from the scene or an injury was treated away from the scene until they have been tested or 8 hours have passed, whichever comes first. What was this? This was first it says 8 hours and then below it says 6, which is weird, but I'll come back to that. So where's my or cited for a violation, right? After being involved in an accident in which there was a fatality or in which the driver was cited for a moving violation and a vehicle was towed from the scene. So you're linking,
Well,
you're conditioning
there's an or in
the
there, too.
moving violation with a vehicle being towed from the scene. I think that and needs to be an or.
Well, it says, and a vehicle was towed from the scene or an injury was treated away from the scene. So you've got several and ors in there. Is this directly from the statute? Because it reads like a New York State law.
It's a lot of nesting.
This particular sentence, this particular section, I think gave us a lot of difficulty.
I guess I just want to know if it's directly from the statute because I don't want there to be, I want the district to be protected from any ambiguity. Should there be a problem with a driver that we don't have like a, well, who understands what that reads?
It's very convoluted.
Yeah, but I think it is.
Where do we live? Where do we live? Is that, I mean, Kim, was that why because we went back and forth on this very, very long sentence, multiple times.
Well, and like you said, one part points out 6 hours. and it goes-
Well, so those are two
It
different things.
distinguishes, yeah, between the two for the
6
6
hours before.
Yeah, well, the 6 is for those who maintain, repair, or garage the listed vehicles or school buses. It's different from
Okay.
drivers of
And,
vehicles
and
above.
it's 8 hours after and 6 hours before. So there's a difference between the 8 and 6.
No, this one was the preceding 8 hours. It was up in the same paragraph. Not the one of
Next
the 8
paragraph
hours
down.
above. He's talking about the preceding 8 and the 6. He's not comparing the 8 in the paragraph above for the,
Okay, we're in.
Just can see my highlights on my screen.
yeah, I can, I'm cheating.
She's looking.
She's cheating.
I'm cheating. Are you good with that one now, Adam?
The second,
Yeah.
I just wanted, actually, I wanted the opinion of one of the lawyers.
Yeah, because it's drivers and then maintenance, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think on that first paragraph, if I'm gonna, let me read it slowly and more clearly. Also, no driver is permitted to use alcohol after being involved in an accident in which there was a fatality or in which the driver was cited for a moving violation and a vehicle was towed from the scene, or an injury was treated away from the scene until they have been tested, or 8 hours have passed, whichever comes first.
Can I just, oh, sorry, go ahead. Would 2 commas clarify that?
How about you
I
just
think
make
that
it into
and
multiple
should be
sentences?
an or.
Multiple sentences.
We went back and forth with this
So
too,
many.
but I think we landed that we should leave it as the statute says. I mean, we struggled with this one too when the committee meeting on time.
I mean, because there's two situations, right, as far as listening to you read it, Adam. So no driver is permitted to use alcohol after being involved in an accident in which either, 1, there was a fatality, assuming there was no fatality, the driver was cited for a moving violation and a vehicle was towed from the scene or an injury was treated away from the scene. So the vehicle was fine and stayed, but somebody had to get
Does it always be
some sort of help. Well, no, I'm saying, I think the way it reads is that,
There's
no,
the fatality is number 1.
the fatality is one,
And the other one is number 2.
and there was a moving violation and the vehicle was towed, or there was a moving violation and somebody had an injury that had to get treated. It wasn't like, oh, I sprained my wrist and then I walk home and I then watch, binge watch The Simpsons. Like, it, right, that's how that reads to me. Either there's a fatality or there's a moving violation, plus the vehicle was towed, or the person had to go to the hospital.
So moving violation has to meet one of those qualifications. Either a vehicle was towed from the scene or an injury was treated away from the scene.
That's how that.
In addition to
yeah,
the
That's how.
citation
So
for
if-
moving violation.
A driver is involved in a moving violation when neither of those things occurs, they're permitted to use alcohol after being involved with it.
Yeah, if they got like a speeding ticket and everything is fine, and they go and have a beer and they're like, you know, I don't know, I just got a ticket too.
Are they still subject to testing?
I mean, I don't know.
No,
But that's not what this is
Not
about.
after
That
that.
particular
Not after
paragraph
that.
is not about testing. Right?
It's just about use of alcohol, yeah.
Yeah, like if they just got a speeding ticket, if they were doing 37 and a 35, then they can go get a beer and then they can, no one's gonna test them.
Because it's liability purposes, they wanna cover, you know.
Oh, no, I get it.
But that's,
Yeah, yeah, I'm
that's
sure you do
not
get
like, even like, do we think just even, again, pulling from the statute, again, this is where we sort of went, this, what we're doing right now, we did.
Yeah. Oh, I believe you.
So, to the extent that we don't wanna mess with the statute itself, do we think that punctuation might clarify and, you know,
I would make it 2 separate sentences.
Yes.
yeah,
Nope, just get rid of the also. No driver is permitted to use alcohol after being involved in an accident in which there was a fatality, period. Additionally, no
yes,
driver is permitted to use alcohol after the driver has been cited for a moving violation and the vehicle is towed from the scene or an injury was treated away from the scene until they haven't, yeah, I mean, it's still clunky, but at least we've carved out the two.
You could bullet it and use semicolons.
There should be like, what are those little, I wish what they're called, like the I. that we
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Close.
And, I mean, I think if we just turn it into 2 separate sentences and use additionally, you're essentially saying the same thing. So do we think that, like, would we get dinged for messing with, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing.
We're not changing the substance,
No.
if anything, we're making it better.
But if you put the period after the fatality, then they're not allowed to use alcohol after being involved in an accident, period. They don't say that yet. They can after being tested or they can after.
I would leave it. It should read more like a clause where it
Yeah.
says, no
Okay.
driver
Right.
is permitted
This
to
is
use
exactly what we just-
alcohol after.
Well,
Wait, so like,
Okay, go.
it should read like a clause, so no driver is permitted to use alcohol after, semicolon, drop it down, indent, being involved in an accident in which there was a fatality, semicolon, drop it down, in which the driver was cited for a moving violation and a vehicle was towed from the scene, semicolon, drop it down, an injury was treated away from the scene.
If a driver was
No.
involved in.
Question, am I reading that wrong?
Yes.
Who goes over this policy with the employee? Does it happen after the event, or is it something that's been pre-hire?
This policy is included in the, transportation handbook. So
Okay.
all, Mark would.
And then they sign off for the handbook?
Yeah, they would sign off, and Mark Primo goes through everything. I mean, this
So-
is all federal requirements for the
If
most
there was
part.
an accident, I'm assuming Mark would 100% call them, you're gonna be involved, and say, do not go drink alcohol, like
Right,
you go through the
but
protocol like a normal corporation.
What's a little bit problematic, and I talked to Mark about this, how would we police this in reality? So someone has an accident and they go home and we say, don't drink. How would,
Someone go to their house?
they go to their house and they go home, I mean, so I just think it's.
Well, they
it's a
know they're
little bit-
subject to testing. If they drink within that time frame, they're gonna pop dirty.
If they get tested. That's the whole point though, is
Right, they get
no one's going there
tested.
to testing them.
If they drink enough that it's gonna show up on a test, you know, so, I can double check it with Mark again, we went over it, but, you know, I'll review it with Mark and.
Well, my concern was just that, are we reading too much into this? Like, is someone really gonna be going, you know what I mean, like looking at it in that depth? Or is this something that HR and the head of transportation says,
They'll call
We're
Mark and
clear,
Mark will
like,
say,
you aren't
don't
going to
drink
follow
for 8
these
hours
regulations.
or
Yeah.
until you get tested.
Yeah, if there's incidents, there's a protocol. Mark has very clear protocol, and unfortunately, we've had nothing like this, but there's just been, if someone has a fender bender in a bus, there is a protocol that they go through.
Yeah.
So,
I would think they're
I think
typically
it's a
tested
good,
with quicker than 8 hours.
So again, like,
Yeah.
given that,
yeah.
Out of
what-
exhaustion.
what we most. Having the weirdest sense of deja vu. So are we comfortable to leave it as is, recognizing that between Kim and Mark Primo, and then Mark Primo's ability to convey this to his staff?
I have full
As
confidence. I don't wanna
well,
say
yeah.
that we're doing it based on individual people, I think I would say we're doing it based on of people in those
Oh,
positions.
positions,
Yeah.
yes, I'm sorry, good, thank you for that, yes,
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I think if the powers that be who have to enforce it are comfortable with it as written, then I'm fine.
Because we don't.
When he read it slow, it reads fine.
Yeah,
If you just read it,
It's a run-on
It's
sentence.
one
you're like, whoa, what just happened? So,
I feel like the kids, the writing professors that I think was working with would look at that and be.
When we send it to him for,
We go to the writing workshop. I appreciate you guys giving us a thought, because we definitely went around and around on this, and it was kind of landed in the same place, here we are.
Say that again, Michelle?
I make a motion to approve.
wave.
Waive second reading.
Second reading.
Reading and vote and.
Approve as written.
We have a first from Michelle, well
You want me to
done.
turn this on for recording and do it
Yeah,
over?
yeah.
I'll second.
And Megan, second. Any more discussion? Okay, I even forget which one is, okay. 8414.5, all those in favor of adopting as is. That is unanimous. Well done, you guys. Okay, there's more.
Thank you.
Okay, first reading, policy 9520.6, policy on the rights of employees to express breast milk in the workplace. Questions, comments?
I'll make a motion to approve without a second, to waive a second reading and approve as written.
Megan seconds it. Yeah, I'm sorry, Jackie seconds it. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, that is 9520.6, that's unanimous, thanks guys, almost there. Oh, right, this one. Okay, first reading, very first reading, policy 8130.2, tell about. Workplace violence prevention, questions, comments, let's hear them.
I make a motion to waive the second reading and adopt as written.
You betcha.
Megan seconds. Any discussion? 8130.2, workplace violence prevention. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor adopting as is, that is unanimous. Well done, guys. Okay. We got a second reading, policy 0100, non-discrimination, equal opportunity. There was some concerns, were those, did we hit those?
I think this was the last meeting, the video ended a little early, but I watched it and you guys were like, let's not, because we have a bunch of board members absent, let's wait.
Oh, that's why.
What was it?
There was a good reason.
Was it the cross-reference?
It was because the entire board wasn't there, and we requested a second reading.
Oh, that's right. Because it was
Because it was,
weighty, yeah, it was like a
I
significant
want, this
amount.
one's a serious one, and I wanted to make sure everybody was here.
Yeah, so that we had unanimous vote, or,
So I make a motion to adopt as written.
okay. Can I get a second? That's Megan, seconds. Any more discussion on 0100, non-discrimination? All those in favor?
Discussion.
I'll leave it on the table for discussion.
Yes. So, well, I was reading about the dog, and I wanted to make sure it was for, service.
Is that what it's for, service? Okay.
Where are we?
The service animal.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Okay, you good?
Yeah.
All right.
I just want to make sure that you're not going down another road.
All those in favor? 0100, all those in favor? Jackie, Jess, I'm not telling you to, I'm just.
We already did, we
Double
just put
checking.
them down.
Okay,
Sorry,
sorry.
sorry.
Yeah, our arms are getting tired.
Sorry, okay, that's two candidates. Okay, second reading, 4321.12, timeout physical restraints. Comments, questions?
This one we approved not that long ago, and we had a slight tweak in it, I believe.
Yeah, this one, the tweak came from NISBA though, right? This is one of the ones that came with a correction.
But again, hefty, so it's nice to have to hold.
Yeah.
If we don't have any comments, can I get a motion to waive the third reading and vote on this one? 4321.12.
Similarly to, the drug and alcohol testing for drivers, is this something that's reviewed, periodically with teachers and aides to make sure?
Yeah, this would be part of the special education. They have a handbook as well for teaching assistants, teacher aides, and, teachers, of course. So,
Just special education though, not general education students? There's never any incident that would possibly require a general ed student to have intervention
as far as a restraint,
or timeout or?
well, we don't really do timeout, is what I'm told. So it's in here as a requirement in the event we did institute a timeout process, but I've been told, and maybe Matt, you can.
We do not.
Yeah, so we don't really do timeout, so it would really be pertaining to restraints. And I don't know, Matt, do you know the answer to that as far as general education teachers?
Well, the only one that can restrain them are those that are, the only ones that can restrain are those that are properly trained, of which we have a very small number, because obviously we don't want adults putting hands on kids unless it's an absolute necessity. I suspect that there was an incident where the child was either harming himself or likely to harm someone else, regardless of classification, as long as the person is trained to do so. But again, the ones that are typically trained are in the special ed department. It's very small.
So when you say timeout, this is like the official timeout with a capital letter, as opposed to like when you're in preschool and you just won't stop talking to your friend.
Yeah, it's an actual space of which the district does not.
I didn't know. I was like, wow, is this what it's come to?
It's funny. It's just late.
It's very late, I'm, yeah.
All right, so I make a motion to adopt as written.
Second.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's take a vote in favor of adopting 4321.12.
Do you have a question?
Oh, sorry.
I do, but you guys are gonna be really mad because it's really late.
No,
we're not.
This is important to
That's
get
what
right.
we're-
I
This is what we're
wanna
here
go
for.
back to one and ask the one we just went off of, and just ask a question. The citizenship and immigration status, is that saying we're condoning illegal immigrants in here? Is that what that policy is standing for, or no?
Oh,
Are
okay,
you talking
sorry.
about the non-discrimination one?
Yeah,
The first paragraph. Well,
hold on. Are we talking about 0100?
I'm sorry, yes.
No, that's okay, but
0100.
here's, if it's okay with everybody, let's
Vote on
let's
that.
take the vote on
Okay.
4321, and then we can
we'll go
answer
back
that
to
question. And just
So
it's
there's a
in.
motion,
That's
there's a
fine.
motion on the floor for 4321, so we have to address that and then we can go back.
Okay,
So
sorry.
yeah, well, it's okay, we're moving fast. So So we'll take the vote. All those in favor of adopting 4321.12. That's what's on the table, so let's vote on that, and then we can go back to 0100. So 4312, all those in favor? That's unanimous, adopted, thank you, okay. And go ahead, Michelle, it is,
Okay, so on
0100 is
0100,
adopted, but go ahead and.
Citizenship, citizenship. It's been a long day. Okay, the immigration status, is that we are, I guess it is the policy is not we are accepting or condoning illegal immigrants into the district, is it? Is it just saying that
It's
they're
just-
not going to be,
It's just saying that we're not gonna discriminate in our programs and activities on that basis.
well, what, so then that would be condoning, right? Because then if they,
Well, and it's
Under the
required
district.
policy, so it's related to the education law for New York State that says that we cannot exclude undocumented, is that correct?
is anyone?
That's law, that's law.
Right,
You can't.
so it's
Yeah,
New York
it's
State
law.
law
I think it's
that,
federal, I think it's everybody.
Yeah, it's under USDA Civil Rights Regulations and Policies. Oh, that's for federal meal program.
I just, if it, from a non-legal standpoint, I just interpret it as that it's more like an abstention of judge, the kids have landed in our sphere and we are responsible for treating them equally.
I think it's actually part of the
We're
Dignity for All
responsible for
Students, or is it, I can't remember which one it's part of.
I mean, I'm just one vote, and I will gladly just change my vote if that's the case, but I just wanna.
Is that can, how would we record?
She went back. I mean, I don't.
Is
Go
it,
back and revote it.
We do a do-over.
yeah, we can put that, yeah. So I just need, I guess a motion to put 0100.
Okay, so I make a motion to put 0100 back on the floor for a revote.
Okay.
Second.
Second by Anna.
Okay.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I think we're obligated to teach all students, period.
Obligated.
I
by
mean,
law.
not even, yeah, but by law, but I think it's just the absolute right thing to do, period, so. I just want to have that there too.
Okay. Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, any against?
So I guess I don't know, am I against or am I abstaining? I guess that's where
That's up to you.
Against
Sharon,
is
that's up to
like you don't like it. Abstaining is you're not voting either way.
If you, yeah, you really have to have a reason to abstain, you just can't not vote on something.
It would be more
Like
like.
when we don't attend a meeting, so we can't vote on the minutes, that's.
Oh,
Right, then I abstain
You
because
abstain
I,
because you don't have basis
Makes
to
sense.
vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Generally, in these, there will not be extension.
Yeah.
If you
This is-
disagree with
this-
the policy, you're within your rights to vote no.
Right.
yeah. no worries.
So we have the aye votes, no votes?
Yep.
Okay, one no, no abstentions, okay.
One.
It is adopted. Oh, and that's it on the policies, good job, guys.
6 and 1.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
yep,
Okay, got it.
okay. I just need a motion to approve.
Yeah, we have another, just the one resolution.
Yes, resolution, right. But I need a motion to bring that up for vote.
You have to read it.
Oh, read it and then vote on it, okay.
You bring it up for the.
Okay. Resolution 12A, be resolved that the Board of Education approves the agreement between the district and the parents of student number 305550 dated December 11, 2023, and authorizes the superintendent of schools to execute the same on the district's behalf and to take action in accordance with its terms. Megan first, Adam second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of passing this resolution? Jess, do you want to, or either way? Any against? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. We are to our second public comment portion, but I have no blue sheets. So.
Nobody?
We'll just,
Can I just say one thing?
we do need a blue sheet.
You can say it
Fill it out.
loudly.
Oh, you-
Okay, just fill it out, because I don't have a pen. No.
Here you go.
You'll write out some.
Yeah.
But
you.
Well, go ahead
What
and
do you
speak.
say?
Go ahead, yeah, say it first and then
Yeah,
you can do it. That's fine.
I just want to give you all a compliment because I can see the passion in the room and the carefulness that everybody is taking with all of these policies and procedures. And I haven't been to a school board meeting in a very long time, and I'm very comfortable that our Averill Park School District is in good hands. Because even if you all have different opinions as to where we are, where we should be, you seem to be converging on the goal in your different paths to get us to where we need to be. And you're being very professional about it, and I just appreciate the time and the energy that you're putting in, because this is a lot of work to be doing, and to be holding other jobs as well, so I just want you guys to know that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was nice.
Seriously.
You did not have to stay that late. You should come to a different meeting.
I'm usually this long. Please come again.
Yeah, I know, right?
Share.
Are you free in February?
Fill out the blue sheet, just put that in writing, and then we'll photocopy it. and hang it
Yes.
on the-
Thank
on the
you.
videograph machine. So- Oh, my gosh.
I know, like, it's gonna go.
We also, yeah, make sure you write your name on there.
So that's what we need.
And that's what we really need, and thank you. What's your name?
Robin Van Broecklyn.
Robin Van Broecklyn, thank you very much. That's a nice public comment. I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah.
We have one informational item on the agenda that is, a change order and, the phase 1A of the, capital project, right? Senior delegate amount at $32,645 and 89 cents. Installation of a fuel management system, we don't need to vote on this. We voted that we can notify, and they're being notified. Finally, we get to hear, right, board member, that's my bedtime.
Oh my God, so
I don't know.
that's my bar, too.
Yeah.
Oh, right on, take your
Glad you
time.
don't have that.
I just wanted to touch base on a couple things regarding our leadership practice this year. So this past week, we had our second wellness week where students had the opportunity to participate in yoga classes and tapping-based circles. And students also attended a comedy story from Mr. Miller. And then with the name change, we had our community engagement forum a little over a month ago. I'd say it went really well. It was really important to get the adult perspective, alumni and staff and community members. We got a bunch of new ideas and we kind of solidified our survey that's going out pretty soon, right, Dr. Franchini? The survey's going out soon.
It is going out soon, and I used to know the date, the next week or two.
Next week or two. And then on Friday, students actually made a video that's gonna go out with the survey to kind of explain our thought process behind it. And I think that everybody who's involved in the name change committee, like as in students, are very excited to move on with the actual branding part of it, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, cool, thanks.
So most of you in the room already know that we have a advocacy committee and there are a few of us to sit on it. We've been in countless hours of meetings fighting for a few different angles, the foundation aid being changed, the formula, as well as potentially matching the hold harmless to inflation, and then we all got sideswiped this week, and surprise, we won't get any. But it hasn't been for a lack of effort, so we have truly been putting in the time and the hours behind closed doors, several of the board of ed and as well as the administrative team, to fight for more funding so we can maintain programs and teachers and give our students the best opportunities out there. So today we attended a press conference and we wanted to thank Scott Bendett for kind of being the headway on that and leading us and inviting us in to speak and let our voices be heard and the district's support behind that. So I just kind of wanted to update everybody where we stand, and Dr. Franchini will be working with Gladys, it seems like on Friday, with another angle. So we appreciate him doing that and fighting the good fight for us. So.
Thank you. I did reference real quick, if I could, during my report, got an email from Senator Ashby's office. There's gonna be a press release coming out next day or two, that we're gonna be a part of. So once I get that final copy, we're actually emailing with it during the meeting. I have a quote in there that he's putting out at some point in the next day or two. So that update, and to Grace's point, the survey is early February, so we're looking at the warrior survey.
Sweet.
Thank you, Michelle.
I was actually just gonna say thank you to the advocacy committee. I was very surprised at the announcement made last week about the funding. I didn't see that coming. And I've spent many hours since then worrying about what we're gonna do about it if it doesn't change. So thank you to the advocacy committee for putting the time in that I honestly couldn't put in. And I'm grateful that we have people that are willing to and make the personal sacrifices to do it. I'll have more to say once the budget gets passed.
I don't really have anything to add, so take it away.
I don't either. I concur with what you said about the advocacy committee. You guys are really doing important work and we all appreciate that.
I'm never without words, I apologize. But I don't apologize. I have a couple of things. I'm really excited to see the Every Student Every Day podcast centered around girls wrestling. Yes, get it, get it, get it. We have a couple of lady wrestlers who are sort of pioneering this sport for our school. Other school districts in the region have massive teams. Niskayuna has a huge team. There's a couple of districts that have, 15, 20 girls that are out there. We have 2 young ladies who are strong, just capable young women. Got the opportunity to see one of our young ladies wrestle on Saturday, and just so proud of all of our students and athletes. And I just love to see when our students get out there and show up. I can't imagine how intimidating it must be to be, a young teen facing, I wasn't always this strong, confident person. So at their age, to show up like that and to pave the way for their fellow lady students, hoorah, absolutely so proud. Also want to say a huge thank you to all of our teachers and advisors who coach sports and lead clubs and spend countless hours with their teams on weekends and after school, and doing all of the amazing things that they do to enrich their lives. I really, really appreciate them. To speak on the budget and the work that we're doing on the advocacy committee, the budget situation is at a point that demands community involvement. The governor continues to press unfunded mandates, and reducing our foundation aid has to be the final straw. The fact that we are having our foundation aid reduced and at the same time having to figure out a way to pay for unfunded mandates like a new electric fleet of buses, or changing our name and mascot, which is going to be a 6-figure bill, it adds insult to injury on the backs of children of this state, and it's unacceptable. 337 school districts, including ours, with the vast majority of these districts being rural and suburban districts, will be left no choice but to cut programs and teachers. It should not be a political tool. We should not be letting our schools be used as a weapon in a political dogfight. And I'm really, at this point, begging the community to please come out and support our local students and spread the word for the rest of the students of this state. We need to step up. We need to let our elected officials know that we're watching, and we expect them to show up for our children. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I know it's been said, but I do also want to say a big thank you for the advocacy committee, because for the reasons Jess cited, but you're really doing the homework, you're representing the district, and you're leading the good fight, and that I give a lot of gratitude for. And I also just want to say, Jim mentioned it earlier, but thank you to the buildings and grounds staff because they keep our space safe during this wacky winter weather that we're having, and it's so appreciated. They're always done and cleaned out even before the state goes by Route 66 or Route 351, because that's about where I live. And our grounds in a snowstorm are meticulous, so it's really appreciated. Plus all the other stuff with making sure our buildings are running on power and all that. They do a fantastic job, especially for the limited staff they have, so thank you to them. Like that. Happy New Year.
You guys are awesome. That's what I want to say. Like everybody around here, like we're sort of, we're in this pickle, and the pickle keeps getting more sour. But on the one side, there's this group of very committed, articulate folks kind of fighting for the kids and like, trying to turn around like a runaway train, down in Albany. And then on the other side, we have you guys who are like, I do trust that you're gonna make it work by whatever means. Like, it's not gonna be the most fun you've ever had. We're not like throwing balls for people, but like to be able to find every kind of nook and cranny and every opportunity and getting as creative as you can with how to make do. I remember, one time Megan got some feedback that was very, very inaccurate in terms of how we manage our money. And I just want to thank you guys for we like to tell our kids, like, you get what you get, you don't get upset. And that's fine. We're a little upset right now. But you guys really do a lot with, you should have a lot more to work with, and you make do in the most creative, amazing ways. And I think it's serving the kids well, to the very best we can do. So, thanks everybody for finding like whatever niche works. And that's all we can do. And maybe we'll make a headway in one direction or another. So thanks everybody for what you guys are doing. Good, really, really good group of people. That's all. I think Megan has something to say.
Just a motion to adjourn.
Well, I thought you were gonna say, Jackie's gonna say it. I'm not a mind reader, but all those in favor of adjourning? Michelle, all in favor of adjourning?
She's like, Howard is gone.
Thank you.
Michelle,
for coming to stay. You're a trooper.
Yeah, you see it the whole time. So proud of you.
I was just planning on the best part, I am the data analyst and the trainer.